Chapter 5577. Yu Linfeng's heart ached as he looked at the petite woman sobbing uncontrollably in his arms. Guilt and self-blame welled up in his heart. In truth, he was well aware of Nangong Wu's dependence on him. He could guess that when he wasn't around, Nangong Wu would be a loss for what to do and worry about him all day. However, he had no other choice back then. If it weren't for his good luck and coincidentally meeting Hong Zhuang and the others, he would have been dead by now. So even now, he still believed that his decision was the right one. At least, this was much better than being separated forever. Wu, it's all my fault. Don't cry. Yu Linfeng's voice was extremely gentle as he caressed Nangong Wu's hair. His handsome face was filled with adoration and heartache. Look, Hong Zhuang and the others are back too. Don't make a fool of yourself. However, Nangong Wu, who was in a state of sadness and joy, couldn't stop crying. She buried her head in Yu Linfeng's chest, unwilling to lift her head. Yu Linfeng didn't force her and only gently patted Nangong Wu's back. Di Beichen and the others only smiled faintly at this scene. They didn't think that Nangong Wu was making a fool of herself. On the contrary, this scene made them feel exceptionally warm. Mu Lingbing pulled Bailey Hongzhuang with a face full of smiles. Then she looked at Lan Yinxiao and said in a light voice, "How did you two coincidentally come back together? Isn't that so?" Lan Yinxiao raised his brows. "Father and daughter are connected by heart, so we coincidentally ran into each other." "Really?" Mu Lingbing was surprised. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. "Isn't that so? Moreover, my father and master are so handsome and elegant. They're very conspicuous." She knew very well that her father didn't want her mother to know what had happened before. He didn't want her mother to worry. She understood her father's deep meaning and naturally wouldn't say it out loud. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly at the way the father and daughter were singing the same tune. She didn't suspect anything. In fact, no matter if it was Bailey Hongzhuang or Lan Yinxiao, they were both characters that were hard to ignore. "Everyone, don't just stand here. Let's go in and take a seat." After Mu Lingbing recovered from her excitement, she quickly called out to everyone. "We've been on the road for so many days. You must be exhausted. I'll get someone to prepare some food." Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. "It's been a long time since I've tasted my family's cooking. You've been gone for so long. Now that you're back, you can't leave so soon." "Of course," Bailey Hongzhuang replied with a smile, but a complicated look flashed through her eyes. She also didn't want to be so far away from her mother. She only hoped that she could go to the upper realm with everyone. She just didn't know if her father would change his mind. At this moment, Xiren suddenly spoke up. "Di Beichun, Ying, and I won't stay here any longer." Mu Lingbing hurriedly said, "It wasn't easy for us to come here. No matter what, we have to eat here." "Many thanks, Annie." Xiren smiled faintly. "But we've been gone for a long time. Now that we've finally returned, we want to hurry back and take a look. If we have the chance, we'll definitely come back again." Di Beichen nodded. "Then you two could go back first. It'll be quick to go back after passing through 2 transportation arrays." Mu Lingbing understood Xiren and Lan Yinxiao's feelings. "Then Annie won't keep you here today. Come again next time." Chapter 5578. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun escorted Xiren and Wenxinya to the teleportation array. "Xiren, you guys should return to the Cloud Sword sect first. When a matter is almost settled, we'll meet up at the Tiangang sect," Di Beichun said after some thought. The Tiangang sect and the Cloud Sword sect had an excellent relationship. In addition, they practically grew up together, so it was very convenient for the two sects to communicate with each other. Xiren nodded slightly. "No problem. I'll send someone to pay attention to whether or not you've arrived at the Tiangang sect. By the way, how long do you plan to stay here this time?" Shanghua and Ying couldn't help but ask. Although they all hoped to stay at home for a while longer, the threat of the upper realm was always there. This time, they had actually spent a lot of time rushing back. Although the Xiao family and the Jun family were damaged, no one knew what would happen in the future. Obviously, they couldn't stay here for too long. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head, a helpless expression on her face. "I haven't thought about it yet. I only hope to bring them to the upper realm. However, you've seen my father's attitude. I don't know how long it will take to convince him. Let's go back and try to talk about this idea. Hopefully, my father will agree, Zyron sighed. Originally, he was full of confidence about this. However, he wasn't completely sure now. Let's take it one step at a time. Everyone, go back and understand the situation first. It won't be too late for us to contact each other and think of countermeasures after we figure it out, D. Beichon said. Okay, then let's talk about it this way. In any case, we've just returned. There's no need to be too anxious. After sending off Shangwan, Ying and Zyron, Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun continued to walk back to the family. Bali Yin Che and Ling also came out of the Chaos Ring. Originally, they had planned to come out when they were at Penglai Island. However, many things happened later, so they didn't come out for the time being. When Bailey Hongzhuang and the others returned to the house, they found that Nangong Wu's emotions had clearly calmed down. Although her eyes were still red and swollen, she was clearly in a good mood. At this moment, the four were happily chatting in the house. Both Mu Lingbing and Nangong Wu were very interested in Penglai Island's matters. Fortunately, the in-law gave us a lot of spirit stones. Otherwise, we would have been paupers when we arrived at Penglai Island. But after arriving at Penglai Island, they finally understood how precious these stones were. Were truly precious. But after they arrived at Penglai Island, they finally understood how. The Hongzhuang Island's island was low-grade spirit stones were already exceptionally precious on Penglai Island. However, Diyujue had given them high-grade spirit stones. According to their understanding, almost no one on Penglai Island possessed high-grade spirit stones. I didn't expect spirit stones to be equivalent to gold coins. Without them, it's really hard to move an inch. Mu Lingbing and Nangong Wu listened with great interest. They had never encountered such situations before and only found it exceptionally interesting. Only when they noticed Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' appearance did the four turn their heads. However, when they saw Bai Li Yin Che and Ling, they were all stunned. A trace of amazement flashed through their eyes. Such a handsome man and beautiful woman were truly eye-catching. Chapter 55-79. What a charming young lady and young man. Nangong Wu's eyes were filled with admiration. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were already first-rate good-looking. She always felt that no one could compare to them. However, the man and woman in front of her were filled with a completely different exotic charm. Not only were they good-looking, but they were also very special. The more she looked at them, the more she felt a certain charm. It didn't matter that the two of them had countless suitors. No matter where they were, they would be noticed at first glance. Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng looked at each other. On their way back, they hadn't seen these two youths. Why did Hongzhuang and Yin Jinxing bring these two back with them? Could it be that these two were their friends from before? However, they had just returned. How could they meet so coincidentally? Seeing the four elders' curious expressions, Bailey Hongzhuang also felt a burst of interest. She smiled and said, "Let me introduce you. This is Ling, and this is my younger brother, Bai Li Yin Che." Hearing Bai Li Yin Che's name, Mu Jins also became interested. Bai Li Yin Che? He's also surnamed Bailey? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and smiled. It's just that coincidental. Since you're Hongzhuang's friends, then you're guests. Please sit. Mu Jins greeted them. Why are you here, so coincidentally today? Di Beichen and the other two looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's interesting appearance and couldn't help but want to laugh. Lan Yinxiao naturally noticed the change in their expressions. He frowned, and his deep eyes were filled with thoughts. He suddenly asked, "Hongzhuang, are you hiding something from us?" "Ha!" Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but laugh. "You really don't know Linger, but Yin Che, you're very familiar with him." Hearing this, the four elders were all stunned. Their gazes all landed on Bailey Yin Che. They clearly didn't remember this figure. Moreover, Bailey Yin Che's appearance was so outstanding. If they had seen him before, it was impossible for them not to have an impression of him. We're very familiar with him? Nangong Wu was puzzled. When had she ever seen such a handsome man? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. That's right, very familiar. She still remembered that when Nangong Wu first saw Bai Shi, She only felt that he was especially handsome. She always liked to pet his head and would never forget about him when there was good food. Bai Li Yinshe also looked at Nan Gongwu with a smile. He also remembered the time when he interacted with Nan Gongwu. Now that he was back, Nan Gongwu couldn't recognize him. How is this possible? Nan Gongwu was incredulous. Could it be that I lost my memory? Mu Lingbing's expression was similar to Nan Gongwu's. How could she not remember such a man who left such a deep impression on her? Lan Yanxiao looked at Bai Li Yinshe in front of him. After pondering for a while, an impossible thought appeared in his mind. However, he quickly erased it. It was almost impossible. Hong Zhuang, don't keep us in suspense. Just tell us directly. Nan Gongwu really couldn't think of anything. This curiosity was driving her crazy. Ha! Bailey Hong Zhuang chuckled and turned to look at Bailey Yinshe. Yinshe, it's better if you say it yourself. Chapter 5580. Facing everyone's curious gazes, Bailey Yinshe smiled faintly and said, I'm Bai Shi. I'm Bai Shi. Following these words, Nan Gongwu and the others were clearly stunned for a moment. Immediately after, the four of them widened their eyes. Their shocked expressions were completely different from their usual calm and collected demeanor. Nan Gongwu quickly walked forward and carefully sized up Bai Li Yinshe. Previously, because she didn't know Bai Li Yinshe's identity, her attitude was still rather distant. Now that she knew everything, her attitude was completely different. You're really Bai Shi? That's impossible, right? Nan Gongwu looked at the perfect side profile in front of her. Aside from being good-looking, there's no similarity between the two of you at all. Could it be that the two of you are colluding to tease us? Bai Shi actually transformed into a human? This was what shocked Mu Lingbing the most. Many people knew that a contracted beast could transform into a human. When a demonic beast strength reached a certain level, it could transform into a human. But until now, they had never seen such a thing, so they had never thought in this direction. A contracted beast transforming into a human. How shocking was that? Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled and nodded. Isn't that so? Bai Shi's cultivation talent is very high. A few days ago, he successfully broke through to human form. Lan Yunxiao sighed inwardly. There was truly an insurmountable gap between the lower realm and the upper realm. This kind of thing was almost impossible in the lower realm. If Hong Zhuang and the others hadn't gone to the upper realm, Bai Shi probably wouldn't have been able to reach this step. That was indeed a more suitable place for cultivators. Previously, this possibility had appeared in his mind, but he didn't say it out loud in the end because the probability was too low. Bai Li Yinshe saw that everyone was still in shock and didn't seem to believe his words. He immediately transformed into Bai Shi in front of everyone. Looking at the familiar yet even more majestic white lion in front of them, Nan Gongwu and the others finally believed it. It really is a white lion, Nan Gongwu exclaimed. Oh my God, this is unbelievable. Previously, I felt that Yinshe looked a little different from the rest of us. He was especially good-looking and gave off a slightly different vibe. Now I finally understand where the problem lies. Mu Lingbing was enlightened. Even if demonic beasts could transform, there were still some differences. Hearing Ling Er's words, Yu Linfeng couldn't help but look at Ling. Ling had an indescribable quality that was very similar to Bai Shi. Hong Zhuang, could it be that Miss Ling Er? Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded. That's right. Ling was also my contracted beast, but I contracted her when I was training, so you've never seen her before. After receiving this affirmative answer, the four of them sighed. It seemed that Bailey Hong Zhuang had encountered many fortuitous encounters without them knowing. Everyone was already used to the fact that Bailey Hong Zhuang could contract multiple demonic beasts. Nan Gongwu looked curiously at Ling Er. Ling Er is so beautiful. Could her true form be a fox? Everyone knew that the Fox clan produced the most beauties. Ling Er shook her head. I'm not from the Fox clan. I'm from the Dragon clan. Chapter 5581. It wasn't just Nan Gongwu. Mu Lingbing and the others were also shocked when they found out that Ling Er was from the dragon race. Among the many demonic beast races, the dragon race was undoubtedly one of the most outstanding. There were many stories about the dragon race, but the dragon race had always been mysterious and powerful. Most people's thoughts about the dragon race existed only in guesses and rumors. But now, a real dragon had appeared in front of them. Moreover, it was Hong Zhuang's contracted beast. This was truly shocking. I've also never seen a real dragon before, but it seems that dragons are all beauties, Mu Ling Bing said with a smile. Ling was originally a bit uncomfortable under everyone's scrutiny, but when she felt everyone's kind and joyful gazes, her thoughts changed slightly, and she calmed down. Hong Zhuang's relatives were undoubtedly very close. Hong Zhuang, you're really amazing now. Yulin Feng gave her a thumbs up. You've really broadened our horizons. In the past, we've never seen a real beast king until we saw Bai Shi. Ling is the same. Lan Yinshao smiled, his voice filled with pride. Bailey Hong Zhuang was truly his pride. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, who would have believed it? I'm just lucky. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Although she had worked hard all this time, she had also had a certain amount of luck. If she hadn't been lucky enough to obtain the Chaos Ring, she wouldn't have received the Holy Maiden's inheritance. Perhaps she would have already died in the training grounds. Ling, can you transform into your true form? Nangong Wu looked at Ling, with some embarrassment. She knew her request was a bit unreasonable, but a real dragon really made her curious. Wu, Yu Linfeng's voice was somewhat reprimanding. Although Ling, was Hong Zhuang's contracted beast, since she had transformed into a human, she couldn't be treated as a demonic beast. This kind of request was truly inappropriate. Nangong Wu was undoubtedly very obedient to Yu Linfeng's words. She immediately said, I was just speaking casually. Don't take it to heart. Seeing this, Linger also smiled and said, No problem, this is not a big deal. She was well aware of the human race's curiosity towards the dragon race. In fact, the dragon race had always been a powerful existence. It was just that there weren't many of them. The heavens were fair. If they gave you great strength, they would also give you something else. So the dragon race couldn't compare to other demonic beast races. It was precisely because of this that many people had never seen a real dragon, so it was normal for them to have such curiosity. Even if she had only interacted with them for a short time, she could feel that the people in front of her were very kind. Seeing Ling agree, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a little surprised. According to her understanding of Ling, she had always had an indifferent temperament. Basically, she wasn't very willing to do such a thing. In this regard, she had never thought of forcing Ling. If she wasn't willing, then forget it. However, Ling agreement still made her very surprised. In the next moment, Ling directly walked into the courtyard and transformed into a dragon in the blink of an eye. Chapter 55-82. So, this is the dragon race. The records in the books weren't this good. Nangong Wu was shocked as she looked at the lines that resembled art. The white dragon's body glowed with rainbow colors under the sunlight, looking as magnificent and colorful as colored glass. Even though Ling had restrained her aura, she could still feel the dragon's might. Lan Yinshao and Yu Linfeng's reactions weren't as exaggerated as the two girls, but they were still shocked and sighed in their hearts. Although they'd had some guesses about the dragon race from the records and rumors in the books, they only understood the gap between their guesses and reality when they saw it with their own eyes. Isn't that so? Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Ling is an especially good-looking existence among the dragon race. Mu Lingbing agreed. No wonder Ling is so beautiful even after transforming into a human. She's an especially good-looking dragon herself. The usually quiet Ling blushed when she heard the crowd's praises. She transformed back into her human form and stood next to Bailey Hongzhuang. Ling skin is thin. She'll feel embarrassed with so many of you crowding around her and discussing her, Bailey Hongzhuang said with a smile. Hearing this, Nangong Wu withdrew her curious gaze. That's right. Ling is a young lady. It's not good for us to crowd around her like this. Mu Lingbing noticed Ling awkward expression and immediately understood. You've all rushed here and are probably tired. Why don't you go back inside and rest first? Wait until the banquet to eat something. How about it? Mu Lingbing asked with concern. All right, no one had any objections. Although they'd been on the flying carriage for the past few days, they were still a little tired from the continuous journey. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun didn't mind, but Lan Yinxiao and Yu Linfeng were still injured and needed a rest. After returning to her room, Bailey Hongzhuang felt a surge of warmth in her heart as she looked at her spotless house. It seemed that even though he had been away for so long, his parents still sent people to clean his house, waiting for him to come back. I haven't been back for a long time. Everything feels so warm. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang immersed in happiness, Di Beichun's heart also felt warm. Since you're back, stay here for a while. Can I? Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows. There were still many things in the upper realm that they could not let go of. Of course. Di Beichun nodded. The Xiao family and the Jun family suffered heavy losses this time. They won't be able to recover in a short period of time. Besides, even if they want to cause trouble, the family isn't afraid of them. I still hope that I can convince my parents to leave with us. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed faintly. She missed the feeling of home. Don't worry, we definitely will. Di Beichun pulled Bailey Hongzhuang to sit on his lap and wrapped his arms around her soft waist. We just came back today, so it's not a good time to talk about this. In 2 days, I'll go and have a good talk with father-in-law. How about it? Bailey Hongzhuang placed her hands on Di Beichun's and nodded. I believe in you. Chapter 5583. The Lan family banquet was bustling with activity. When the cooks found out that the master, eldest miss, and young master had all returned, they all worked hard to prepare their signature dishes. The entire family was in a joyous mood, and discussion surrounded Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. However, with the appearance of Bailey Yinshe and Ling there was no doubt that 2 more people had joined the discussion. Just as Nangong Wu and the others had guessed, Bailey Yinshe and Ling attracted everyone's attention the moment they appeared. Big Sister Mu, you're so lucky to have such a beautiful and outstanding daughter, and such a handsome and powerful son-in-law. Nangong Wu smiled. Even your contracted beast is so good-looking. Ever since they found out about Bailey Yinshe and Ling Er's identities, they had a new understanding. One is marked by the company one keeps, and one is marked by the company one keeps. A good-looking person's contracted beast is also good-looking. Hearing this, Mu Lingbing chuckled and instinctively glanced at Yu Linfeng. If you're envious, then hurry up and have one. Nangong Wu clearly didn't expect that she would be caught off guard. She quickly changed the topic. I see that many young men and women in your family have taken a liking to Yin She and Ling That's to be expected. Mu Lingbing had already guessed this possibility. However, I think that Yin She and Ling are very compatible. Nangong Wu paused, then looked at Ling and Bailey Yin She, who were bickering. She suddenly understood. Big Sister Mu, you're so smart. If you hadn't mentioned it, I wouldn't have thought of this possibility. Haha, it's hard to say what's going on between the younger generation. Mu Lingbing smiled faintly, then turned to Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest. Today, the kitchen staff has prepared everything that we can think of. Try it and see if you like it. Looking at the various delicacies in front of her, Bailey Hongzhuang took 2 bites and praised, "The taste is naturally excellent." Lingbing, did you tell father-in-law about Hongzhuang's return? Lan Yinxiao put down his chopsticks and asked. The 2 elders were undoubtedly more eager than them for Hongzhuang and Beichun's return. Don't worry, I've already sent someone to inform him. Mu Lingbing nodded. However, father is currently in closed-door cultivation. He should be here tomorrow. Only then did Lan Yinxiao relax. That's good. The elders of the Lan clan toasted them one by one, celebrating everyone's return. Young miss, will you still be leaving this time? The great elder asked with a smile. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. We're only staying here for a while. We'll still be going out to train in a few days. There was no doubt that it wasn't appropriate to tell everyone about the upper realm, so Bailey Hongzhuang only said that they were going out to train and didn't talk too much about it. I can sense that young Mrs. Aura is much stronger than before. I wonder what cultivation level you've reached. The second elder was curious. Although Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun were only sitting there quietly, he could feel an inexplicable pressure. This kind of pressure made him feel extremely terrified. It was as if the eldest young miss only needed a thought to kill him. This was something that he thought was impossible, but this feeling really existed. Chapter 5584. In fact, the second elder wasn't the only one who felt this way. They felt the same way as well. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other and said, "We've already cultivated to the purple realm." After hearing this answer, the hearts of all the elders trembled. In fact, everyone had always thought that cultivation was endless. However, they didn't understand what was above the purple realm. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had already cultivated to such a realm at such a young age. It was really amazing. Their eldest young miss was truly a genius. "Young miss, what's the realm above the purple realm? Can you tell us?" The second elder, Lan Borong, blushed and said, "To be honest, I've lived to this age and still don't know what's above the purple realm. I can only find out from young Mississippi, second elder. It's not just you. We don't know either." When the Lan family's old master, Lan Hongtai, saw this scene, he felt a burst of pride in his heart. His granddaughter and grandson-in-law were really capable. Facing the curious gazes of the elders, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded and said, "Since all the elders are so curious about this, I'll explain it properly. After the purple realm is the starlight realm, and the nebula realm. Each realm also has 9 levels. I didn't expect there to be 3 more realms after the purple realm. I wonder what realm young miss is in now. I'm in the nebula realm now." When these words came out, everyone was dumbfounded. When the young miss left, she was only in the purple realm. In just a few years, she had already reached the nebula realm, 3 realms in a row. If it was an ordinary person who knew how many years it would take to cultivate. However, the young miss actually did it so easily. This was too shocking. No wonder I felt that the young miss aura was so terrifying. It turns out that the gap is so big. It wasn't just the elders and disciples. Even Lan Hongtai and the others couldn't help but be shocked when they learned of Bailey Hongzhuang's true cultivation. This kind of cultivation speed was really shocking. So the upper realms are actually so terrifying. Nangong Wu lowered her voice and sighed. She had always known that Hongzhuang was a cultivation genius, but she also understood that if Hongzhuang had stayed here all the time, it would have been impossible for her cultivation to reach such a level in just a few years. The upper realm was indeed a cultivation paradise. Yulin Feng nodded slightly. He was also shocked by this point. After just one trip to Penglai Island, he felt that Penglai Island's cultivation speed was much faster than the outside world. Needless to say, the upper realm was much stronger than Penglai Island. If he had the chance, he really hoped to go to the upper realm. That was a more suitable place for cultivators. "Young miss, you're really amazing. With this kind of cultivation, there's no need to fear anyone." I don't know where the young miss went to train. Such a speed of improvement is really frightening. If I had the chance, then it would really be... Even if you go, you can't compare to the first Mississippi. Although all the disciples understood this point, their blood was still ignited. If they could also have such powerful strength, then they could really do whatever they wanted in the future. For a time, many people were looking forward to the opportunity to train together with the young Mississippi. Chapter 5585. That night, many of the Lan family's cultivators couldn't sleep. Bailey Hongzhuang had described a brand new world to them, making them understand that this world wasn't as simple as they thought. There was an even vaster world with even higher realms. And now, the eldest miss they had always admired was walking at the forefront. News of Lan Yunxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang's return immediately spread throughout the Shengxian continent. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun had always been the focus of attention, so when they mysteriously disappeared, many people were very surprised. Regarding this, Tiangang's sect only said that they had gone out to gain experience. However, no one doubted it. As long as one was a cultivator, they would always go out to gain experience, not to mention a sect master who needed to raise his cultivation. Now that Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest had returned, Everyone was even more curious. They didn't know what cultivation they had reached after going out to gain experience for so long. After all, Tiangang's sect, Lan family, Limitless Palace, and other powers added together was an unshakable colossus. Everyone couldn't help but be concerned. Early the next morning, Si Tian and Mu Jins arrived at the Lan family. Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest immediately rushed over after hearing the news. Di Beichen was even more excited. Si Tian had raised him and was undoubtedly the closest person to him. I heard that Hongzhuang and Beichen are back, so I immediately rushed over. Is this true? Si Tian no longer had his usual calmness. His face was filled with surprise and excitement. This old fellow rushed over after hearing the news, not caring how early it is. Mu Jin smiled. Hongzhuang is really back. Mu Lingbing looked at their anxious expressions and smiled. Don't worry, they're really back. I've already sent people to inform Hongzhuang and Beichen. They should be back soon. You guys can sit for a while. Beichen's constitution has been completely resolved, right? Situ Yin asked with concern. Lan Yinshao nodded. It's already been completely resolved. Who knows how good he looks now? His cultivation has also greatly improved. You'll definitely be shocked when you see it. That's good, that's good. Situ Yin heaved a sigh of relief. Although he had heard of this news before, he still couldn't completely feel at ease without seeing him in person. Since even Lan Yinshao and Lan Xuanyu said so, it proved that there really was no problem. While they were talking, Di Beichen and Bailey Hongzhuang rushed over. Master, Di Beichen had a pleasantly surprised smile on his face. Looking at that familiar face, he felt an indescribable sense of intimacy. Scenes of his master raising him as an adult seemed to appear before his eyes. From when he was just a toddler learning how to walk to when he started his own family, bringing him everywhere to experience and improve his cultivation, teaching him how to use the sword at the back of the mountain, bringing him to drink, all of those scenes made him feel incomparably nostalgic. Beichun, Si Tuyin's face was also filled with ecstasy. He felt as if his grandson, who had been away for a long time, had finally returned home. When everyone saw this scene, they all sighed in their hearts. They knew very well that even if Di Beichen and Si Tun weren't related by blood, the relationship between the two of them wasn't any less than that of a real grandfather and grandson. Chapter 5586. Hongzhuang, you're finally back. Quick, let grandmother take a look. Have you lost any weight while you were away? Mu Jin-sei carefully sized up Bailey Hongzhuang before a satisfied smile appeared on her face. Good, you're still so pretty. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled when she heard that. Grandmother, you're also a great beauty. Haha, you're such a sweet talker. Mu Jin-sei patted Bailey Hongzhuang's little hand. You can't leave so soon after coming back this time. Spend more time with grandmother and your mother. You don't know, but while you were away, your mother had been waiting for you to come back every day. Mu Lingbing saw that Mu Jin-sei had sold her out the moment she opened her mouth and couldn't help but say, Hongzhuang, your grandmother is also waiting for you to come back every day. She's always talking about you, but she doesn't talk about it anymore. Mu Jin-sei's expression changed as she said, Ling Bing, hearing all this, Bailey Hongzhuang only felt her heart grow warmer. Grandmother, mother, I know you're all thinking about me. Her exquisite face was filled with a blissful smile. I've always been thinking about you too. I hate that I can't be with you all every day. It would be great if that could be the case. Mu Jin-sei couldn't help but sigh. After Di Yujue had appeared, her feelings had undoubtedly been extremely complicated. If they hadn't found the Di family, then Beichen would have been able to come back after his body's condition was resolved. But now that Beichen had found his family, he naturally couldn't stay here forever. She was happy that Beichen had found his family, but when she thought about how her child wouldn't be able to stay by their side often, she felt a little sad. After everything that had happened, what she yearned for the most was to be reunited with her family. Actually, this isn't impossible. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. After a short discussion, Situ-yin suddenly said, Beichun, did Xiren and Ying come back with you? We're back. We're back together. Di Beichun smiled lightly. But we just returned yesterday, so Xiren and Ying returned to the Cloud Word sect first. Situ Yin nodded slightly, with a heavy expression on his face. It's good that you're back. You made it in time. Seeing the change in Situ Yan's expression, Di Beichen couldn't help but ask, Master, did something happen? Why do you have such an expression? When Bailey Hongzhuang heard the conversation between the two, she couldn't help but look over with a concerned expression. Xiren and Ying were their good friends, so they naturally cared about them. Something has indeed happened to the Cloud Sword sect recently. Situ Yin sighed, and his expression was filled with helplessness. Lan Yinshao couldn't help but ask, what exactly happened? Sect Master 1 of the Cloud Sword sect went out to gain experience a few days ago to search for an opportunity to break through, yet he never imagined that he would offend an expert and be heavily injured. He fled with heavy injuries and returned to the Cloud Sword sect extremely carefully, yet he never imagined that the rage of that expert hadn't dissipated at all. Moreover, that expert intentionally let him return for the sake of finding out where he came from. Now, that expert has even spread the news that the entire Cloud Sword sect will be annihilated 7 days from now. So the current situation of the Cloud Sword sect can be said to be extremely terrible. Who's so arrogant? Di Beichen's eyes sank, and his voice unconsciously carried a trace of viciousness. Even if there was enmity between two cultivators, it wouldn't affect their family. Chapter 55-87. I don't know either. Sect Master Wen contacted me after this incident, but according to his description, I'm unable to determine who it is. Situ Yin had a difficult expression on his face. He had been the Sect Master here for so many years, so he knew the experts of the Shengxian continent very well. However, according to Sect Master Wen's description, he could not think of such a person in his mind. Sect Master Wen's strength is considered outstanding even among the various sect masters. To be able to injure him to such an extent and even dare to speak so arrogantly, it must be a peerless expert, right? Mu Lingbing's eyes rippled with contemplation. She had never heard of this before. On one hand, it had only happened recently, and on the other hand, she didn't know who this expert was. Situ Yin nodded slightly. According to Sect Master 1, this person's strength is extremely strong, almost exceeding his understanding. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. If they hadn't been to Penglai Island and the Upper Realm, they wouldn't have been able to understand this at all. However, after experiencing so many things, they understood that this person's strength had most likely surpassed the Purple Realm and was at least at the Starlight Realm. Otherwise, Sect Master Wen wouldn't have such a feeling. Grandfather, is Sect Master Wen's injury very serious? Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was filled with concern. Although she hadn't seen Sect Master Wen before, he was Xiren's father. Needless to say, Wan and Xiren would be heartbroken when they returned and saw this scene. It's very serious. Many doctors and alchemists in the sect have gone to see him, but the results weren't very good. Situ Yin looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Hongzhuang, since you're back, why don't you go take a look? Among the doctors he knew, Bailey Hongzhuang was the best. Many doctors and alchemists were helpless. Perhaps he could get a trace of hope from Bailey Hongzhuang. Then let's set off now. Bailey Hongzhuang hurriedly said. For this kind of matter, the earlier the better. If they were late and something bad happened, it was something none of them wanted to see. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, everyone nodded. Among the various sects, the Cloud Sword sect had always had a close relationship with them. In addition to the brotherhood between Xiren and Di Beichen, this matter naturally couldn't be left unattended. When Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen set off, Lan Yinshao and Yu Linfeng also decided to follow them. Yu Linfeng, everyone was a little worried about the sudden appearance of this peerless expert. Master, if that guy is really in existence above the Starlight Realm, then he's an existence that surpasses everyone in the Shengxian continent. Even the playful Xiao He felt the seriousness of the matter after hearing this news. Her brows were tightly knitted, and her face was filled with worry. That's right. Compared to other things, perhaps this is the most important problem. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes darkened. She didn't know what level the other party's strength had reached, nor did she know if they could deal with him. Chapter 5588. Logically speaking, it's very difficult for a Starlight Realm cultivator to appear in the cultivation resources of the lower realms, but it's not completely impossible. Di Baichen was also immersed in his thoughts. This situation really caught them off guard. Previously, they were worried that something like this would happen, so they hoped to bring their clans and sects to the upper realms. Although there were powerhouses everywhere in the upper realms, under such circumstances, everyone could also improve faster. Sometimes, being in such a situation wasn't a bad thing. On the contrary, ignorance was the most terrifying. However, he didn't expect that just as he started to worry about this problem really happened. This was undoubtedly terrible. Didn't that guy say that he'll come to destroy the Cloud Sword sect in 7 days? We'll know when we see it with our own eyes. The cold voice was cold and sharp, and the phoenix eyes that were as black as ink rippled with a deep and cold light. Even if they didn't know what kind of guy the other party was, since he had provoked them, they definitely couldn't let him go. Cloud Sword sect. Xiren and Shangguan Yingying were undoubtedly in an extremely bad mood at this moment. They originally thought that after returning this time, they would see a happy and harmonious scene. Xiren thought that this time he would be able to hold his head high in front of his old man. Previously, his old man had always said that his vision wasn't broad enough and wanted him to go out and gain experience. After going out this time, his strength had increased a lot compared to before. However, he didn't expect to see his heavily injured father after returning. When Jingwei was lying on the bed at this moment, the injuries on his body were shocking, and one of his hands was gone. He had often seen his father injured since he was young, but it was really the first time he saw such serious injuries. Xiren, why don't we go look for Hong Zhuang? Hong Zhuang's medical skills are so good, she must have a way. Shangguan Yingying anxiously paced back and forth. She really didn't expect such a scene to happen. For a moment, she was so anxious that she didn't know what to do. Father said that he has already told Sect Master Situ about this matter. As long as Hong Zhuang and the other C-Sect Master Situ, he will definitely mention this matter. Once Hong Zhuang and the others know about it, they will definitely come over. We don't need to make an extra trip. Xiren pulled Shangguan Yingying back. Presently, what we have to worry about the most is stabilizing the hearts of the people. After this incident occurred, all the disciples of the Cloud Word sect were in a state of panic, and there were even many people that wanted to flee first. The Cloud Word sect is Father's painstaking effort. I can't let it disperse just like this. No matter what, the Cloud Word sect was his roots, and it was the place he'd lived since he was young. His mother had left early, so his childhood memories were of his father and the Cloud Sword sect. Even if his father normally wasn't good at expressing his feelings, he understood his father's feelings towards the Cloud Word sect. If the Cloud Word sect were to collapse, just like this, then that would be something that his father was most unable to accept. Shangguan Yingying nodded when she heard this. You're right. All the disciples are discussing this matter. What do you think we should do? Stabilizing the hearts of the people. This matter was simple, but the hearts of the people were the most difficult to predict. If they wanted to stabilize the hearts of the people, then they had to make everyone be filled with confidence towards the Cloud Word sect. Yingying, don't worry about it. Leave this matter to me. Chapter 5589. Just as the two of them were talking, Di Baichen and his group had arrived. Xiren. Di Baichen quickened his steps and walked in front of Xiren. You're here. Xiren's lips curled into a smile. I knew you'd come today. How's Uncle? Bailey Hong Zhuang asked with concern. Shangguan Yingying walked to Bailey Hong Zhuang's side, her delicate face filled with anxiety. Hong Zhuang, it's good that you're here. Father's condition is very serious. Quickly go and take a look. All right. Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded solemnly. Quickly take me to have a look. Yingying, take Hong Zhuang over first. We'll be there soon. Xiren said. Immediately after, Bailey Hong Zhuang followed Bailey Hong Zhuang and quickly rushed to Sect Master Wen's residence. On the way, Shangguan Yingying was also anxiously explaining the general situation to Bailey Hong Zhuang. Hong Zhuang, we can only rely on you now. Shangguan Yingying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with hope. The latter was undoubtedly carrying all their hopes. This time, the serious injury caused a huge blow to father. I feel that his entire condition has become very bad. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly. She still had some doubts in her heart. However, when she saw Sect Master 1, she suddenly understood what Shangguan Yingying meant. In her line of sight, Sect Master 1 was lying on the bed. His originally handsome face looked extremely old at this moment. Even his hair had turned white. He was dispirited and listless, as if his vitality had been forcefully taken away by something. His eyes were dim and lifeless. "Father, Hongzhuang is here," Shangguan Yingying called out softly. Her slightly trembling voice was filled with heartache. She'd stayed in the Cloud Word sect since she was young, and she'd taken Wen Jinghui to be her own father since long ago. At this moment, when she saw him in such a state, how could her heart not ache? Wen Jinghui then turned to look at Bailey Hongzhuang, the corners of his lips pulling out a smile with difficulty. "Hongzhuang, you're here." "Uncle, let me take a look at your injuries," Bailey Hongzhuang said softly. Wen Jinghui waved his hand. "It's useless. I know my body. It can't be saved." Originally, when he fled back, he was quite glad that the heavens didn't want him to die. However, after returning, he found that his body's condition was getting worse and worse. So many doctors and alchemists came, but it was useless. Presently, he'd already given up hope, and the only thing he regretted was that if he knew the outcome would be like this, then he shouldn't have returned at that time, and he wouldn't have implicated the entire Cloud Word sect. The only thing that comforted him was that he was still able to see Xiren and Yingying before he returned, and this was already the preferential treatment that the heavens had given him. "Uncle, your condition isn't that bad. Don't give up so quickly," Bailey Hongzhuang said hurriedly. Shangguan Yingying spoke out as well. "Father, the other doctors and alchemists can't treat you because their standards aren't high enough. However, you know how strong Hongzhuang is, so you can be at ease and let her treat you." Wen Jinghui looked at Shangguan Yingying and smiled lightly. "I know you're filial." With Wen Jinghui's cooperation, Bailey Hongzhuang carefully examined Wen Jinghui's injuries, and she instantly gained a trace of understanding in her heart. "Hongzhuang, his father's injuries related to the energy of darkness." Chapter 5590. That's right, Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. It seems that this guy might have come from the upper realm. Awakening one's innate talent could only be done in the upper realm. She had previously thought that this guy might have come from Penglai Island, but now she was certain. Although she couldn't figure out how this guy came from the upper realm to the lower realm, such a guy would indeed pose a great threat to the Shengxian continent. Then, can father's injuries be treated? Don't worry, if it was before, it would be a little troublesome to treat, but I'm the Saint of Light now, so this shouldn't be a problem for me. With the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang falling, Shangguan Yingying breathed a sigh of relief, and her whole body was at ease. As long as her father was fine, they could think of other ways. Wen Jinghui had already given up hope, but after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's confident words, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment, a thick look of surprise appearing in his eyes. Did he hear wrongly? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. "Uncle, you don't have to worry, I'll be able to heal you soon, but you'll have to think of another way to heal your hand." Wen Jinghui's hand was already gone, so if he wanted to regrow it, he would have to find another way. Wen Jinghui nodded. He had already given up on this point. However, the news that he was still alive was undoubtedly extremely shocking to him. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang began to use the power of light to heal him. In fact, Wen Jinghui's injuries weren't complicated. The reason why the doctors were helpless was because they couldn't stop the destructive power of darkness. Not only that, that guy was very despicable. He even left a trace of darkness in Wen Jinghui's body when he attacked. It was this dark power that was constantly destroying Wen Jinghui's vitality. If they had come back 2 days later, Wen Jinghui would have been exhausted to death by this dark power. As an extremely warm light appeared from Bailey Hongzhuang's body, Wen Jinghui only felt an indescribable sense of comfort. The feeling of collapse from before seemed to have disappeared in an instant, and even his breathing became smoother. The power of light and the power of darkness were opposites to begin with. So under the influence of the power of light, the power of darkness quickly dissipating into nothingness in the blink of an eye. Wen Jinghui looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. He had never seen such a method before. When that ray of light appeared, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had become sacred and inviolable. She was as holy as a fairy from the ninth heaven, giving people an indescribable feeling of nobility. Most importantly, that kind of power made people feel comfortable for no reason. This feeling was transmitted from every corner of his body. It was no different from a cleansing of his marrow and meridians. "Uncle, do you feel better?" Bailey Hongzhuang asked with a smile. Even though his injuries had yet to be healed, Wen Jinghui's mental state was already much better than before after eliminating the dark energy that was constantly destroying his body. Wen Jinghui nodded. "Much better, Hongzhuang. I didn't expect you to be so powerful now. Ying and Xiren are also very powerful, so you don't have to worry." "Don't worry, Xiren can handle the 7-day agreement." Chapter 55-91. When Xiren and the others arrived, they saw that Wen Jinghui had recovered a lot. Immediately, when Xiren breathed a sigh of relief, and a long-lost smile appeared on his face. Even though he wasn't proficient in medicine, he could tell from Shangguan, Ying, and the others' expressions that there shouldn't be any problems. "Hongzhuang, many thanks." Xiren suppressed the excitement in his heart. Even though he had always appeared to be strong, he still couldn't calm down after seeing his father's condition. Now that he saw this scene, he was completely at ease. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. "With our relationship, do you still need to say such words? All right, take it that I said something wrong." "Hongzhuang, how is Sect Master Wen's condition?" Situ Yin asked. He and Wen Jinghui had been friends for many years and had a very close relationship. Although Wen Jinghui was Xiren's father, the age gap between them wasn't very big because he married and had children at a later age. "Don't worry, it's nothing serious. He just needs to recuperate for a while." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. "That's good." Situ Yin revealed a smile and looked at Wen Jinghui. "I told you not to despair. You can be at ease now." Wen Jinghui chuckled. "It seems that my luck this time is really good." After Bailey Hongzhuang bandaged Wen Jinghui's wounds, everyone began to discuss the situation. "Sect Master Wen, please tell us the ins and outs of what happened. This way, we can think of a countermeasure," said Lan Yinshao. "All right." Following that, Wen Jinghui recounted everything that had happened back then. It turned out that Wen Jinghui had gone out to train this time to find an opportunity to break through. During this process, he found a place with extremely dense origin energy. It was a good place for cultivation. No cultivator would be willing to miss such a good cultivation cave, so he wanted to take a look. However, he didn't expect that the cave had already been occupied. After discovering this, he immediately wanted to leave. He didn't expect that the other party would be so furious at his appearance that he didn't even have the slightest chance and directly wanted to take his life. He didn't care too much at first, but after the other party made a move, he felt the other party's terrifying strength. He didn't have the slightest room to resist. However, after heavily injuring him, the other party didn't directly take his life but let him leave. He originally thought that the other party didn't intend to take his life, but he didn't expect that the other party had actually been following him for the sake of destroying the entire Cloud Sword sect. The other party's strength was very strong. I didn't notice that he was following me until he appeared in the Cloud Sword sect. Wen Jinghui's S is S. After S of Ovs. S is Is. The other party should be a cultivator of the darkness attribute, but I don't know how he came here from the upper realm. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly said. Sect Master Wins was unable to heal because of the dark energy. Chapter 55-92. So that's how it is. Although they didn't know what method the other party used to come to the lower realm, just like how they could return, others might be able to find a loophole. Maybe he's from the same clan. Didn't Ling Xiao go to Penglai Island because of this? Shangguan Yingying said, darkness attribute cultivators are ostracized in the upper realm and have a hard time. However, It's a different situation in the lower realm. He's an existence that completely transcends everyone. Di Beichun said in a low voice. The reason he followed the Cloud Sword sect might not be to destroy the sect, but to seize it for himself. Now, he understood the situation of the darkness attribute cultivators in the upper realm very well. Logically speaking, it was too exaggerated to destroy a sect because of such a small matter. However, from Sect Master Wen's strength, he could guess that his background wasn't simple. It was too troublesome to build a new force on his own. It was undoubtedly the easiest way to get rid of the Sect Master and replace him. What you said is very possible. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. However, it's also his bad luck that he chose the wrong person. Her beautiful voice carried a trace of coldness. If the other party was a cultivator of another attribute, perhaps they would be worried. After all, no one knew if the other party was stronger than them. However, after knowing the other party's attribute, they were completely at ease. The darkness attribute cultivation method had disappeared for many years. The other party didn't have a corresponding cultivation method, so his strength definitely wouldn't be high. This point could be seen when they first saw the group of darkness attribute cultivators. Situ Yin, Wan Jinghui, and the other seniors looked at the four juniors seriously analyzing, but their minds were in a mess. This was because they didn't understand the situation. Even if the four juniors analyzed clearly and logically, they couldn't even say a word. So according to what you're saying, this guy, can you deal with him? After a long while, Lan Yunxiao concluded the crux of the problem. Hearing this, the four youths smiled and nodded. If there are no accidents, it should be so. When Jinghui's eyes widened, perhaps Situ Yin and the others didn't know, but he knew the other party's terrifying strength very well. However, the four of them actually said that they could deal with him. Wasn't this too frightening? Xiren, you guys actually improved so much this time? Wen Jinghui found it hard to believe. In fact, he was quite familiar with Penglai Island, but even the cultivators of Penglai Island couldn't compare to this man's strength. That's right. When Xiren nodded proudly. Father, you're right. We still have to go out and see more to see a wider world. I actually wanted to bring you with me when I came back this time. Haven't you always liked to see the vast world? There's a good opportunity now. After we've dealt with this matter, let's go together. What do you think? Wan Jinghui, STH. A tyrannical aura erupted from Wen Xiren's body. However, Wen Xiren controlled it so that it did not affect Wan Jinghui. Chapter 5593. This aura, it's exactly the same as the powerhouse I met before. Wen Jinghui's eyes were filled with shock. Previously, he did not know how to use words to describe the other party's strength. He only felt that it was a strength that completely exceeded his understanding. At least, he had never met such a terrifying opponent in the Shengxian continent for so long. However, after Xiren released his aura, he was shocked to find that his son had only left for a short period of time and his strength had reached such a terrifying realm. After sensing Xiren's aura, Situ Yin and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. This level of strength was something they had never come into contact with before. Previously, when Bailey Hongzhuang displayed her strength on Penglai Island, they were also extremely shocked. Xiren and the others had only been in the upper realm for a short period of time, but they had already reached such a terrifying level of strength. From this, it could be seen how terrifying the strength of the upper realm was. Those powerhouses who had always lived in the upper realm must have extremely shocking strength, far beyond their imagination. When Dujue first came, they instinctively felt that Dujue's strength was very powerful. It was a kind of strength that was felt from his soul. However, from the beginning to the end, Dujue had never displayed his strength, so they did not know what Dujue's cultivation was like. It was only now that they had a more specific understanding. Without thinking, they knew that Dujue's strength was definitely much stronger than Xiren and the others. That was a world that was completely stronger than the lower realm. Hearing Wan Jinghui's words, Xiren's face revealed a trace of a smile. If he was still worried before, now that he heard his father's words, he could rest assured. It seemed that the other party's strength was indeed not very strong. they could completely deal with it. Father, you can rest assured now. Even if I can't do it, Beichen and Hong Zhuang are both stronger than me. The other party is just courting death. When Xiren smiled, at this moment, Wen Jinghui naturally understood. His heart that had been hanging in the air finally relaxed. He was worried that the Cloud Sword sect would be destroyed in his hands. He'd spent so much effort, and he absolutely couldn't let it disappear just like that. By the way, Father, what do you think of my proposal? Xiren asked with a smile. Shang Wanning also smiled and said, Father, the upper realm suits your requirements very well. You'll definitely like it. She had followed Wen Jinghui since she was a child, so she knew Wen Jinghui's character all too well. He only wanted to pursue higher cultivation. Due to the lack of cultivation resources in the lower realms, Wen Jinghui's strength had never been able to improve. If he went to the upper realms, he would definitely improve quickly. Wen Jinghui pondered for a moment, then smiled and said, Then first, we have to make arrangements for the sect. Hearing this, Xiren and Shangwan Yingying both smiled in surprise. Father, does that mean you've agreed? When Xiren, who was still in a state of surprise, could not help but ask for confirmation. Ever since Lan Yunxiao rejected Bailey Hongzhuang's suggestion, he had been worried about this problem. Perhaps to them, abandoning the sect was not a difficult matter, but to the elders, it was simply impossible. However, after seeing his father agree to his request so quickly, he found it hard to believe for a moment. Chapter 5594. Xiren and Shangwan Yingying both breathed a sigh of relief after receiving this affirmation. Although there were many dangers in the upper realm, there was still a chance for them to improve. However, if they stayed in the lower realm, it would be troublesome if something like this happened again. Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun looked at each other after noticing this. How they wished Lan Yunxiao would agree so easily. In fact, when Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun looked at each other, Lan Yunxiao and Yu Linfeng also exchanged glances. Compared to Wen Jinghui, they seemed to be thinking too much and complicating things. With all the knots in his heart untangled and his injuries gradually recovering, Wen Jinghui's condition improved a lot in a short time. Since it's a 7-day agreement, there aren't many days left. Why don't we stay here for the time being? Situ Yin suggested. Wen Jinghui nodded and hurriedly called out to Xiren. Xiren, quickly arrange a place for us to stay. Brother Situ, I really have to thank you this time. What's your relationship with me? You're still being so courteous. Situ Yin patted Wen Jinghui. Rest well, and don't worry about anything else. You have a good son and a good daughter-in-law, so you can rest assured. The last time he spoke with Wen Jinghui, he could clearly feel the former's worry and helplessness. Although he wanted to comfort Wen Jinghui, he couldn't think of a good way to do so. Fortunately, everything was easily resolved now, so they could be completely at ease. Isn't this all thanks to Beichen and Hong Zhuang? Wen Jinghui was full of smiles, his eyes filled with pride and gratitude. Xiren and the others already told me that if it weren't for Beichen and Hong Zhuang taking care of them, they might not have been able to keep their lives. Uncle, it's only natural that they've been helping us. Di Beichun said, because of my physique, Xiren and Yingying went to Penglai Island to help me. I know the relationship between you two brothers. You must always be good in the future. Wen Jinghui looked at Xiren and Di Beichun with gratification. Although the two of them were not biological brothers, they were closer than biological brothers. Their relationship had always been very good over the years. Definitely. The two of them spoke almost at the same time, their expressions full of determination. After leaving Wen Jinghui's house, when Xiren led Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to their residence. Actually, in the Cloudword sect, Citian and Di Beichun had always had residences that belonged to them, because in all these years, both of them would frequently go to each other's sects, so they both had their own residences. The Tiangang sect similarly had residences for Xiren and Wen Jinghui. However, this was the first time Lan Yunxiao and the others had come here, so when Xiren rearranged everything. After settling everything, Xiren said, Seniors, you should all rest first. This matter has caused quite a stir in the sect, so I still need to go and deal with it. Hearing this, Everyone nodded and said, "Then quickly go and do what you need to do." Di Beichin and Bailey Hongzhuang didn't stay in the house, but went out to see if there was anything they needed help with. Chapter 5595. When Zyra nodded. Indeed, that fellow even released his own pressure, allowing many disciples to clearly sense it. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichin sighed with emotion when they heard this, and merely by hearing it, one could guess how shocking the situation was to all the disciples at that time. Even Sect Master One was extremely shocked by such formidable strength, let alone these young cultivators. Probably many people were directly terrified out of their wits. It's exactly as all of you think. When Zyron shrugged, his face filled with helplessness. So the entire sect is in a state of panic now, and there are even some cultivators that have directly fled. The Cloudword sect had stood towering for so many years, and even though there were many disciples that were loyal and devoted to it, but there were similarly many people that valued their own lives more. Presently, all the disciples of the Cloudword sect didn't have the mood to cultivate, and all of them were pondering the problem of whether they should leave or stay. If they left just like this, it would be too heartless, but if they didn't leave and left their lives here, it would be too much of a pity. After thinking about it, everyone was hesitant and uneasy, and they completely didn't know what to do. What do all of you think we should do now? The sect master is already heavily injured, and even if the young sect master returns, it would be of no use. Wait, don't be anxious. Didn't the sect master of the Tian Gang sect come as well? Perhaps this matter will take a turn for the better. In my opinion, it's probably very difficult. All of you have felt how terrifying that expert strength is. I wonder how the sect master offended such a terrifying opponent. It's truly terrible. All the disciples discussed with each other, and all of them had their own plans in their minds. When Zyron and the others arrived, they heard sporadically some conversations, and they weren't surprised by this. Every man for himself, and the heavens take the hindmost. What everyone valued the most was naturally their own life and future. After they saw when Zyron and the others appear, all the disciples went silent. Zyron sized everyone up before saying, "I understand what everyone is thinking now, but I still have to tell everyone that the matter this time isn't a big deal to our Cloudword sect, so there's no need for everyone to panic. It's impossible for them to cause any damage to our Cloudword sect in the 7-day agreement, much less destroy it." His sonorous and powerful voice was like a reassuring pill, causing the originally unstable heart to calm down. Faced with Zyron's confident look, everyone immediately felt more at ease. However, there were still many disciples who had doubts. One had to know that even the sect master was injured to this extent. Even if sect master Situ was slightly stronger than the sect master, it couldn't be by much. It was obviously difficult to convince everyone with just one sentence. "Young sect master, is the opponent that strong? Have you thought of a solution?" Zyron glanced at the person who asked the question, and the man immediately shrank back. "It seems that no one has confidence in me." Everyone looked at each other. Even though they had such thoughts in their minds, no one dared to say it out loud. Since that's the case, I'll let everyone have a taste of my strength, so that everyone can feel at ease. As soon as his voice fell, when Zyron's aura swept out in all directions. In just a short moment, everyone felt as if dark clouds were covering their heads. A powerful and terrifying aura enveloped them. Chapter 5596. No one had expected when Zyron's current strength to be so powerful. Everyone stared blankly at the warm figure in front of them, and their hearts were already in a state of shock. How terrifying! This was simply too terrifying. Even though the young sect master had previously told them the same thing, none of them believed him too much because the gap between them was simply too great. However, it was only at this moment that they realized that the young sect master's powers were not any weaker than the peerless cultivator whom they had previously thought to be. As when Zyron retracted his aura, the crowd burst into an uproar. Heavens, I never thought that the young sect master would be so powerful. It seems that we don't have to worry anymore. I feel that the young sect master's coercion is not any weaker than that cultivator's. I can finally relax. I can have a good night's sleep tonight. The crowd heaved a sigh of relief. Recently, they had been unable to eat or sleep well, which had made them feel extremely helpless. Fortunately, they could finally relax after thinking about all of this. When Zyron heaved a sigh of relief when he noticed the changes in the crowd. Even though they had lost quite a number of disciples in this incident, as the young sect master, he felt that it was not a bad thing to eliminate some people through this incident. There were still a few days left, but those fellows had already left in a hurry. It was clear that they had no feelings at all. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. It seems that all words are not as effective as the deterrence of power. Of course, power is still the most important thing. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the entire sect to fall into such a situation with just one person. Shang Waning secretly sighed. Initially, we had wanted to do this yesterday, but we weren't sure how powerful the other party was, so we didn't take any action for the time being. However, it seems that all of this isn't a big problem now. Shangguan Yingying heaved a sigh of relief. Now that I think about it, I still feel a little scared. If we hadn't returned at the right time, I'm afraid that we would have been in trouble. As soon as she said this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others felt the same way. We're really lucky to have returned this time. If we had returned a little later, both my father and sect master would not have been able to escape this disaster. Bailey Hongzhuang understood Shangguan Yingying's feelings very well. She had the same feeling when she was on Red Moon Island. Perhaps it was all luck. So, God is kind to us, and let's catch up. Shangguan Yingying smiled. Although he had experienced a period of fear and trepidation, fortunately, everything was developing in a good direction. By the way, my father has already agreed. Has Uncle changed his mind? Zyron suddenly asked. Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. We haven't talked about this topic since then, but I hope that what happened today will change Father's mind. I think it should have some effect. Shangguan Yingying pondered and said, I noticed that Uncle's expression changed a little at that time. I hope so. Let's have a good talk after this matter is settled. Di Beichen said. In fact, he also wanted to find a suitable time to talk to his father-in-law, but he had not found it yet. I could try asking Mother. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. In her opinion, dealing with Mu Lingbing was easier than dealing with Lan Yanxiao. Chapter 55-97. After when Zyron stabilized the hearts of the people, the entire Cloud Sword sect returned to its former tranquility, and everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Compared to the nervousness and worry from before, everyone was extremely curious about this 7-day agreement now, and they wanted to know what kind of scene it would be when the time came. At the same time, this news was also known by all the forces. Even if the matter of one Jinghui being heavily injured was intentionally concealed, it was still inevitably leaked out in the end. Many cultivators who fled successively sought refuge with other forces in order to find a place to stay, and in the process, they naturally couldn't help but speak of this matter. 1 spread to 10, 10 spread to 100. Although the distant forces didn't know, the nearby forces had practically already heard of it. Sect Master Wen's strength is extremely strong. I saw him make a move once before, and many people weren't his match. This time, he was actually heavily injured and even suffered a calamity, truly unlucky. Don't speak too slowly. It said that young Sect Master Wen has already returned, and Tiangang Sect's Sect Master Sidu has also gone over. Perhaps this matter will take a turn for the better. In my opinion, you're thinking too naively. The other party dared to say such vicious words. It can be seen that he has sufficient confidence. Sect Master Situ's strength is indeed not weak. But compared to Sect Master Wen, could it be that the other party didn't understand this beforehand? Such a conversation was practically played out in the various forces, and in the end, the vast majority of people firmly believed that Cloud Sword Sect was going to suffer calamity this time. As for helping, they had never thought of it at all, unless they wanted to throw their own forces into it as well. How close are these fellows normally with me? Now, all of them are looking for excuses. Wen Jinghui looked at the reply in his hand, and it was difficult to conceal the rage on his face. After this matter happened, he was worried that Cloud Sword Sect would be powerless to resist, so he sent out letters to some close friends, hoping that they could help him. However, after understanding the strength of Xiren and the others, he was completely at ease and originally wanted to tell this news to everyone so that they didn't have to worry, but he received a reply. In closed-door cultivation recently, heavily injured and unable to make a move, going out to look for his daughter who was wandering outside? What kind of messy reasons were these? Even if he wanted to make up a story, he had to make up a convincing one. Okay? He helplessly realized that apart from Situ Yin, almost everyone else was running away if they could. This kind of perfunctory reason was obviously that they had already determined that he was finished this time, and they didn't even bother to pretend to be polite. Looking at Wen Jinghui's angry appearance, Situ Yin sighed and said, "You still don't know what kind of people they are?" This kind of reaction is very normal. How many of them were true friends who would go through life and death together? Moreover, most people would make such a choice when their entire force was involved. To think that these fellows usually speak so nicely. Wen Jinghui's anger could not be quelled. If anything happens to them in the future, I will definitely not pay attention to it. It's good that you've seen it clearly. You've always been such a loyal person. This kind of thing isn't a bad thing for you. Situ Yin sighed. He and Wen Jinghui had known each other for many years, so he knew Wen Jinghui's character very well. Wen Jinghui was a man who valued friendship and righteousness. Most of the time, Wen Jinghui would even neglect Situ Yin. Chapter 5598. You still have the nerve to talk about me. Wen Jinghui, who was originally flustered and exasperated, suddenly laughed after hearing Situ Yin's words. I've already fallen into such a desperate situation, and you still want to help me. Ha! Situ Yin also laughed. We've been brothers for so many years. That's true. What's the point of thinking about those fellows? What a waste of time. Wen Jinghui smiled in a carefree manner. Although he had misjudged people in his life, being able to befriend Situ Yin was undoubtedly his greatest gain. As night fell, the entire world was covered by a layer of black veil. Everything was silent. When Xiren originally planned to find Di Baichen for a drink and wondered if he would disturb the two. However, before he reached his residence, he saw Di Baichen's figure and was surprised. Don't you usually not come out at this time? Di Baichen looked at the wine jug in Xiren's hand. Didn't I guess that you would come looking for me? That's why I specially came over. Hearing this, Xiren looked suspiciously at Di Baichen. Why did he feel that something was wrong? Where's Hong Zhuang? She's with mother-in-law. When Xiren suddenly came to a realization. I was wondering why a man like you, who treats his wife like his life, would want to drink with me. It turns out that you've been abandoned by Hong Zhuang. You're alone tonight, huh? Di Baichen looked at Xiren, who was laughing without a care in the world. His long and narrow eyes narrowed. Xiren, sometimes it's not good to be too smart. I don't care. Just let me laugh for a while. Inside the house, Bailey Hong Zhuang, Mu Lingbing, and Mu Jin sat together. The three women were like a drama. Moreover, they had not seen each other for a long time. They simply had endless things to talk about. Hong Zhuang, I think Secmaster Wen is planning to go to the upper realm with Xiren. Is it really okay? Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang curiously. When she had first heard Xiren ask about Wen Jinghui, she had already wanted to ask, but the circumstances had not been appropriate. Bailey Hong Zhuang had long wanted to have a good talk with her mother about this matter. Now that she heard her mother bring up this topic, of course, she was even happier. That's right, it's possible. Bailey Hong Zhuang smiled faintly. Actually, that's why we came back this time. We hope to bring you to the upper plane with us. That way, we won't have to be separated. Hearing Bailey Hong Zhuang's words, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jin looked at each other. That's a good thing. Mu Lingbing's face was full of joy. To her, there were many things she could let go of. As long as she could be with everyone, that was enough. But there are as many powerful cultivators as there are clouds in the upper realm. With our current strength, going there will be very dangerous. Mu Jin frowned. Grandmother, when I first went to the upper realm, wasn't it the same situation? But now, I can keep up with everyone. When I'm not strong enough, I can stay at home and cultivate. When I'm strong enough, it won't be too late to go out and train. Bailey Hong Zhuang was in high spirits. In her opinion, all of this was not difficult to solve. But Mu Jin's expression was still somewhat conflicted. She felt that there were still some other problems that had not been solved. Hong Zhuang, have you told your father about this? Mu Lingbing asked. Chapter 5599. Mu Lingbing's eyes flashed with confusion. Rejected? Why is that? I don't know either. Bailey Hongzhuang's delicate and elegant face was full of distress as she looked pitifully at Mu Lingbing. Mother, it's not easy to come back from the upper realm. If possible, I really hope that you can all go together. Ever since she'd found out that a darkness-type cultivator had come here, her sense of danger had grown even stronger. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's serious expression, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jin's understood her sincerity. Hongzhuang, don't be anxious. I'll have a good talk with your father later. Mu Lingbing patted Hongzhuang's hand. I understand that you're a filial child and want to take us with you. However, your father must have his reasons for rejecting us. Once I've figured it out, we can discuss it again. How about that? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. All right. If you don't want to, that's fine too. I'll come back when I have the chance. After changing the subject, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly thought of something and smiled. Grandmother, mother, Beichen's family has prepared many things for me to give to you. They say that they want to thank you for marrying me to Beichen. Mu Lingbing was taken aback. They've already given us many things when they came. How can they give us more? I've already said that, but Beichen's grandmother and mother insisted. That's why I brought them over. Xiaohei nodded. They said that it's their fortune that you're willing to marry a darling like Master to Beichen. They want you to express your sincerity. Seeing that Xiaohei was beaming with joy, Mu Jin's reached out and pulled the mischievous little girl into her arms. You little girl, you're really a living treasure. Xiaohei also liked Mu Jinsei very much. Lying in Mu Jinsei's embrace, she closed her eyes comfortably. This feeling of being smoothed down was really comfortable. Although the two had already guessed that the D family wouldn't be stingy, they were still shocked when they saw what was inside. Heavens, so many treasures. Mu Jin's looked at the things in front of her and didn't know what to say. These things, no matter which one it was, were all very valuable in the lower realms. But now, they were piled up here like cabbages. It was too unbelievable. Hongzhuang, how big is the D family in the upper realm? With so many treasures, his foundation must be terrifying. Mu Jinsei was clearly thinking more. These things, even the entire sect wouldn't be able to take out. The D family is also a first-class aristocratic family in the upper realm. They are very powerful. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. These things aren't important to us. But from this, we can see that their family values and likes you very much. I can rest assured. Mu Lingbing was very happy. As a mother, she cared most about her daughter's well-being. Everything else wasn't important to her. That's right, this is the most important thing. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly understood the good intentions of Bei Chen's grandmother and mother. The reason why they had prepared all this, on the one hand, it was their good intentions, and, on the other hand, it was to make her family feel at ease. Don't worry, they treat me very well. You don't have to worry at all. Chapter 5600. The 7-day agreement was getting closer and closer, and in the blink of an eye, it was already the 5th day. The entire Cloud Sword sect seemed extremely calm, as if it wasn't affected at all, but everyone could feel the pressure of the coming storm. On this day, someone suddenly came. The sect master of Ancient Profound Sect is here, when Xiren had a puzzled look after hearing the news. Ancient Profound Sect was also a very influential sect in Shengxian continent, but they didn't have much contact with them. In 5 days, almost everyone already knew about the 7-day agreement. Logically speaking, no one should come at this time. After all, no one wanted to implicate their own sect. This Ancient Profound Sect rarely deals with us. Is there a purpose for them to come here today? Di Beichun said solemnly. Although he wasn't in Tiangang's sect these few years, he had already understood the general situation from his master. Obviously, it didn't have much to do with Ancient Profound Sect. After sending someone to receive the sect master of Ancient Profound Sect, Xiren went to Jinghui's residence. Now that when Jinghui's injuries were gradually recovering, he could move freely. You said Gu Yanran of Ancient Profound Sect is here? When Jinghui raised his eyebrows. When Xiren nodded slightly. Father, I always feel that something is wrong with this situation. You should go and talk to him personally. He was the young sect master, and the other party was the sect master. No matter from which point of view, it was better for Wen Jinghui to personally receive him. I'll go and take a look too. Yin stood up. Even if Gu Yanran hadn't explained the purpose of his visit, he vaguely felt that it was related to the 7-day agreement. Otherwise, the other party wouldn't have chosen to come at this time of the storm. Conference Hall. Wen Jinghui walked into the conference hall with a smile. Sect Master Gu, I didn't expect you to come today. I'm really sorry for not going out to meet you. Gu Yanran had some doubts in his heart when Xiren said that he was going to invite Wen Jinghui. When he really saw Wen Jinghui and found that Wen Jinghui's spirit was very good, he couldn't help but be stunned. A trace of astonishment flashed in his eyes. Wen Jinghui and Situ Yin naturally did not miss the change in Gu Yanran's expression. Just by noticing this, they already had some guesses in their hearts. Sect Master Wen, please forgive me for disturbing you today. Gu Yanran cupped his hands and said, What are you saying, Sect Leader Gu? I can't welcome you more than you can come here. What's there to bother you about? After everyone sat down, Gu Yanran said, Actually, I came here today because I have something to say. Speak your mind. I've heard about the 7-day agreement this time. I'm sure Sect Master Wen has been working hard on this matter, right? Gu Yanran looked at Wen Jinghui, his calm face full of confidence. The Cloud Word Sect is Sect Master Wen's painstaking effort. According to my thinking, you ought to not wish to see the Cloud Word Sect be annihilated, right? That's such a pity. Hearing this, Wen Jinghui said without batting an eyelid, Could it be that Sect Master Gu has some good suggestion? My suggestion is very simple. As long as you give up the position of Sect Master and quickly leave here, then the Cloud's Word Sect won't have to suffer such a great calamity. You and the young Sect Master will also be able to keep your lives. How about it? Chapter 5601. Grandfather's guess is right. This Sect Master Gu is indeed related to dark attribute cultivators. It seems that he's here today as a lobbyist. Bailey Hongzhuang frowned slightly, and a haze appeared in her eyes. I think he's not a lobbyist at all, but here to show off. Xiren's eyes were cold. Even if Gu Yanran's words were rather polite, he could still clearly feel his disdain and ridicule. That look, it was as if he'd already looked down on them, and it was impossible for them to turn things around. It was clearly persuasion, but it carried an aggressive feeling. Wen Jinghui naturally understood the situation in front of him, but he did not immediately flare up and continued. How did Sect Master Gu know about this matter? Could it be that you know that powerhouse? At this moment, almost everyone's gaze fell on Gu Yanran. Regarding this point, everyone was rather curious. Gu Yanran nodded without any scruples. That's right, I know Master Shun. Immediately after, his gaze circled the surroundings, and then he continued. Sect Master Wen, you and Master Shun have fought face to face. I'm sure you know how strong he is. Even if you have the help of Tiangang's sect, it's useless. Master Shun's strength is not something that can be defeated by numbers. Sect Master Gu, that Master Shun is so strong, it should be impossible for him to listen to you. Situ Yin suddenly said, Could it be that your ancient profound sect is already controlled by Master Shun? As soon as these words came out, Gu Yanran's expression suddenly changed, and his voice also turned cold. Master Shun is an elder of my ancient profound sect. If he wants the ancient profound sect, there's absolutely no problem. I'm here today to remind you that all these years, there's still a little friendship between us, so I plan to let you live. Of course, if you don't know how to appreciate favors, crippling the Cloud Sword sect is also a simple matter for us. Seeing this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest looked at each other. It seemed that this Sect Master Gu was completely controlled by that Master Shun, and he was willing to be controlled. Although Gu Yanran still held the position of Sect Master, it was obvious that he only existed in name. The entire ancient profound sect was already under the control of Grandmaster Shun. Originally, everyone had some sympathy for Gu Yanran's situation, because the sect could be said to be the painstaking efforts of the previous sect masters. How could they be worried about giving away the inheritance of so many years? However, what Guyenran said at the moment made everyone lose all sympathy. It was obvious that he was being controlled by someone, yet he still wanted to use that person's might to intimidate others. Speaking of which, it was very laughable. Sect leader Gu, you don't have to worry about our Cloud Sword sect, when Jinghui said bluntly. If it was before Xiren and the others returned, perhaps he would have made such a choice because he could not ignore the lives of all his disciples. But now, he no longer had to worry about this. Ridiculous. Gu Yanran's face was full of disdain. Do you really think you can compete? Let me tell you the truth. Not only Cloud Word Sect, Tiangang Sect, and Limitless Palace are all our targets. At that time, all the forces in the Shangxian continent will be under our control. If you don't know what's good for you, you're courting death. What a wild ambition. Chapter 5602. Facing Situ Yan's anger, Gu Yanran remained arrogant. Old man, I'm telling the truth. If you don't know how to adapt to the situation, be careful of implicating all your descendants. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang moved and slapped Gu Yanran's face. You despicable bastard. Watch your mouth. Bailey Hongzhuang narrowed her eyes. If I hear you insult my grandfather again, I'll knock out all your teeth. Gu Yanran obviously didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to dare to hit him and couldn't react in time. Ha! He spat out a mouthful of blood, which surprisingly contained 2 teeth. Looking again, everyone noticed that Gu Yanran's face was swollen and even his speech was incoherent. Bailey Hongzhuang, you're courting death. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. What can you do to me here? She wasn't even afraid of the so-called Grandmaster Shun, let alone this Gu Yanran who was just a fox borrowing the tiger's might. At the same time, Di Beichun, Lan Yunxiao, Yulin Feng, and the others all looked coldly at Gu Yanran, as if they would beat him into a pig's head if he dared to move. Seeing this scene, Gu Yanran swallowed back the words he wanted to say. If Grandmaster Shun was here, she wouldn't be afraid of anything, but now that he was alone, she naturally had to be extra careful with her words. Otherwise, if these guys went crazy and killed him, he wouldn't be able to do anything. After thinking it over, Gu Yanran could only be a bastard. Master, why didn't you just leave this guy here? Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang and the others like Gu Yanran go like this, Xiao He was a little puzzled. This guy was so arrogant. Wouldn't it be more satisfying to just get rid of him? Let him go back and report the resentment he felt today. When the time comes, we'll let him know the truth. Wouldn't that be more interesting? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. Xiao He was slightly stunned. After understanding Bailey Hongzhuang's meaning, she couldn't help but sigh. Master, you're trying to anger him to death. I'm looking forward to the day after tomorrow. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others didn't keep Gu Yanran's arrival a secret. On the contrary, they publicized it. This Gu Xuanzong was so despicable. Because they knew this Grandmaster Shun, they started dreaming. In their opinion, it was ridiculous. He might as well take this opportunity to announce this matter to the public, so that everyone could get to know the true ancient profound sect. When Gu Yanran returned to the ancient profound sect, he immediately went to look for Master Shun. Shen Yaolong frowned after seeing Gu Yanran's embarrassing appearance and said, "What's the matter with you? Grandmaster Shun, you have to take revenge for me." Gu Yanran's face was full of indignation. That one Jinghui really doesn't know how to appreciate favors. I let him live. Not only did he not appreciate it, but he also acted arrogantly with Tiangang Sect's sect Master Situ. They hit you? Shen Yaolong narrowed his eyes. A dangerous look flashed across his eyes. The person who hit me is Wuji Palace's palace master, Bailey Hongzhuang. She's too arrogant. She doesn't put you in her eyes at all. She said she's not afraid of us at all. She despises us to the extreme. Shen Yaolong snorted coldly. This one Jinghui really has guts. If I didn't let him live, he would have died long ago. Chapter 5603. Shen Yaolong was full of confidence. One Jinghui had mistakenly barged into his cultivation mansion, and Chu Chu, a purple realm cultivator, dared to offend him. Naturally, he was very unhappy. Originally, he wanted to teach Wen Jinghui a lesson, but after knowing that Wen Jinghui was the sect master of the Cloud Sword sect, he felt that it would be good to take down the Cloud Sword sect through this opportunity. In the past, he had been suppressed everywhere in the upper realm, and his life was very unhappy. He never thought that by chance he would come to the lower realm through a loophole. After coming here, he found that the lower realm was simply heaven. All the cultivators here had strength that did not exceed the purple realm. Even major families and sect masters would not be able to withstand a single move in front of him. He had heard that the lower realm was a place that could not be compared to the upper realm, but he did not expect the gap between the two to be so big. It just so happened that he had no future in the upper realm. If he stayed in the lower realm, he could be the king of the mountain, and no one could resist him. This feeling was much better than staying in the upper realm. After meeting Gu Yanran, he controlled the entire Gushuan zone. After a discussion between the two, he decided to control the entire lower realm. At that time, he would be able to call the wind and summon the rain, and the world would be under his control. Hearing Shun Yaolong's question, Gu Yanran shook his head in confusion. Master Shun, when I saw Wen Jinghui earlier, I found that although he lost a hand, his mental state was not affected. He looked very good. He was very confused about this point. He was very clear about Master Shin's means. That dark power was not something that ordinary people could resist. What did you say? Shun Yaolong was stunned, and suspicion appeared in his eyes. That's impossible. Everyone knew how destructive the power of darkness was, and it was impossible for a purple realm cultivator to fight against it. Master Shun, everything I said is the truth. When I saw it earlier, I felt that it was very strange. I don't know what method they used to eliminate it. Tell me everything that happened after you went over. Shun Yaolong became more serious. According to his understanding of the Shengxian continent, no one could destroy his dark power. Such a situation suddenly happened. He had to figure out what was going on. Could it be that other cultivators from the upper realm came here? He had always had some misgivings about this. After all, since he could come here, it also meant that others could come here as well. So he had to be vigilant at all times. Seeing this, Gu Yanran immediately recounted everything that happened after this trip in detail. You said that young sect master when had gone out to train for a few years and had just returned? Shun Yaolong raised his voice and asked. Gu Yanran nodded slightly. Yes, not only him, but also the young palace master of Limitless Palace and the young palace master of Heavenly Dipper sect. They all just returned this time. Although they never said where they went to train, there were rumors that they went to Penglai Island. As for whether this is true or not, I don't know. If they really went to Penglai Island, then this matter is easy to understand. Chapter 5604. Noticing the change in Shun Yaolong's expression, Gu Yanran couldn't help but ask, Master Shun, do you know the reason? Penglai Island has a medicine that can treat wounds caused by dark energy. Since they've been to Penglai Island, it's normal for them to have this medicine in their hands. Shun Yaolong's expression was relaxed. Actually, he didn't kill Wen Jinghui in the first place, but dark energy was the most difficult to treat. Once this problem was solved, everything else would no longer be a problem. However, since Wen Jinghui already knows how powerful I am, he actually still dares to do this. He's truly courting death. Shun Yaolong's long and narrow eyes narrowed slightly, and his face was filled with viciousness. Him being willing to let Wen Jinghui live was already a great mercy, and now he actually dared to not appreciate it. That's right. Gu Yanran gnashed his teeth and said, These fellows are so detestable. Master Shun, we absolutely can't let them off. Just thinking about how he was knocked out by a junior in front of so many people, he couldn't control his anger. If he didn't take revenge for this, he wouldn't be Gu Yanran. Don't worry. Shun Yaolong turned around and looked at the sunset outside the house. His voice was cold without the slightest bit of warmth. I will take all their lives. Hearing this, Gu Yanran's face revealed a smile. This was the result he wanted the most. He wanted to let this group of ignorant fellows know how wrong of a decision they made today. However, He wouldn't give them any chance to regret it. This day was destined to not be a peaceful day. After the Cloud Sword sect spread the ancient profound sect's plot, all the forces understood everything in a short period of time. This undoubtedly caused a huge commotion, and because it was too sensational, some people couldn't help but wonder if this was fake. Although the ancient profound sect's strength isn't weak, they usually don't do things that stand out. This time, they actually caused such a big matter. Isn't it a bit too unbelievable? I think it might not be groundless. It's impossible for the Cloud Sword sect to make up such a reason. According to what I know, Guyan Ran of the ancient profound sect did indeed go to the Cloud Sword sect that day. Normally, the ancient profound sect doesn't have much contact with the Cloud Sword sect. This is truly too strange. Even though many people had doubts in their hearts, more people still chose to believe it. Because if there wasn't such a thing, it was impossible to make up such a strange story, even if it was made up a reason. In the blink of an eye, the appointed time had already arrived. The 7 days promise had already spread among the various major forces. If it was said that they still had an indifferent attitude before, then now that they understood the purpose of the ancient profound sect, they could no longer treat it as if nothing had happened. Because this was related to their own interests. Once the ancient profound sect controlled the Cloud Sword sect, their strength would become even stronger. No one was willing to allow their own forces to be devoured by others, so when this day arrived, many leaders of forces came to the vicinity of the Cloud Sword sect. Ins, TT because SSS. S's, because the TTT. Chapter 5605. I'm afraid today will be a rare lively day for our Cloud Sword sect. Xiren couldn't help but sigh with a hint of ridicule in his calm voice. He also knew that his father had sent many letters to other forces, but they were all rejected. Now that this matter was related to their own interests, they all sighed with emotion. This was really the reality. After sensing the familiar auras outside, when Jinghui's gaze became gloomy and complicated, these old fellows are really getting more and more shameless. Since they rejected me, they should pretend to be more serious. Today, they actually came by themselves. What a joke. He originally thought that those old fellows would stop after coming up with such a strange reason, but he didn't expect that there would be even more exaggerated things behind. Perhaps they would find another lie to cover it up later. I think they should have come together after discussing it. Situyin shook his head and patted Wen Jinghui's back. It's every man for himself. It's not strange for them to be like this. Although they had lived for so long and had to have some face in front of the interests of the entire force, this face didn't seem that important. Father, all of them are gathered outside the sect. Should we let them in? When Xiren pondered and asked, Wen Jinghui raised his right hand. No need. Now that the people from the ancient profound sect haven't arrived, they don't dare to come in. At this time, they don't want to have anything to do with us. He knew too well that these fellows were obviously treating them as a touchstone. Your father is right. Let's wait until the people from the ancient profound sect arrive. Lan Yunxiao's voice was calm and indifferent. It will be a good show later. At the same time, it was especially lively outside the sect. I wonder when the people from the ancient profound sect will arrive. Is it appropriate for us to stay here like this? What's inappropriate about this? Today's matter is extremely important. Only by figuring it out can we be at ease. But if we see Sect Master when later, we'll really have no face. The few of them looked at each other with embarrassment. They had just replied that they didn't have time, and now they were here. Wasn't this slapping their own faces? However, they didn't have any other way. While everyone was discussing, Gu Yanran and Xin Yaolong's figures slowly appeared in everyone's line of sight. Behind the two of them was a row of ancient, profound sect cultivators. At this moment, all of them had their heads held high and their chests puffed out. Their arrogant expressions made the leaders of the various factions feel very unhappy. The cultivators of the ancient, profound sect were filled with confidence at this moment. Ever since this Master Shun came to the sect, the status of the sect had been rapidly rising. Those fellows that went against the sect in the past had restrained themselves greatly now. Most importantly, They'd come here today for the sake of subduing the entire Cloud Word sect. Just thinking about it filled their hearts with pride. How strong was the Cloud Sword sect? But from today onwards, he was going to become a subsidiary of the ancient Profound sect. The status of these people would naturally rise as well. In the past, when they met the leaders of these forces, they could only be respectful. But now, when they thought about how these forces would all be under their control, they no longer had the respect they had in the past. Chapter 5606. Xin Yaolong felt the surrounding gazes on him, and his eyes were filled with disdain and pride. He didn't care about these so-called leaders of the forces at all. Master Shun, it is said that when Jinghui spread everything I said that day, so there are so many people here today, I think they all want to understand the situation. As if worried that Shun Yaolong would be unhappy, Gu Yanran hurriedly explained the reason for the matter. Hearing this, Xin Yaolong was very calm. It's good to let them see the situation today. When the time comes, you won't have to waste your breath. You're right. These guys won't shed tears until they see the coffin. When they see Master Shun's strength, they'll naturally understand. As Gu Yanran and his group got closer and closer to the gate of the Cloud Sword sect, the leaders of the forces outside could not hold back anymore. They came here today to understand the strength of Master Shun and the others. If Shun Yaolong and the others went in like this, wouldn't they not be able to see anything? If they suggested that the Cloud Sword sect let everyone in, it seemed to be a bit hard to say. After thinking about it, the only way was to figure out Shun Yaolong's strength outside the sect. Gu Yanran, I heard that you plan to annex the forces of the Shengxian continent. Is this true? The sect master of the Azure Cloud sect looked at Gu Yanran and asked first. As soon as these words came out, everyone's gaze fell on Gu Yanran. If it was said that Gu Yanran had come here today for the sake of his personal enmity with the Cloud Sword sect, then they could completely disregard it. But if all of this was true, then everyone couldn't think of nothing. Feeling the gazes that were fixed on him, Gu Yanran smiled calmly. That's right, I do have such a plan. His calm voice was arrogant and insufferably arrogant. That contemptuous look seemed to not put anyone present in his eyes. After the disciples of the ancient Profound sect felt the sect master's attitude, they became even more proud. In the future, their ancient Profound sect would become an existence that looked down on all forces. The sect master of the Azure Cloud sect obviously didn't expect Gu Yanran to admit it so easily. He didn't even have the slightest intention of hiding it, and was instantly dumbfounded. When the others saw this scene, they also sucked in a breath of cold air. They didn't expect all of this to be true. In the face of Gu Yanran's arrogant tone, anger burned in everyone's hearts. Gu Yanran, you're too arrogant. So what if I'm arrogant? Gu Yanran sneered. I came here today to subdue the Cloud Sword sect first. As for you guys, wait for my ancient Profound sect to subdue you one by one. Here, I would like to introduce to all of you the chief elder of our ancient Xin sect, Xin Yaolong. I don't care about your nonsense. Gu Yanran, I advise you to stop dreaming. Otherwise, the one that will be exterminated will be your Gu Xian sect. You're truly a wolf with wild ambitions. Dream on. Trying to swallow all the other forces? What a joke. Everyone mocked in disdain. This kind of thing, just thinking about it, knew that it was simply impossible. Chapter 5607. Hearing this, Xin Yaolong glanced at the surrounding people and said disdainfully, You bunch of trash, let me remind you first. If you obediently hand over your forces, I can let you live. Otherwise, your outcome will be the same as Cloud Sword Sect's one Jinghui, becoming a complete dead man. Following Xin Yaolong's words, everyone was stunned as they looked at this arrogant fellow in front of them in disbelief. Standing in this position for so many years, they had never seen such an arrogant fellow. Xin Yaolong, you're too arrogant. The Azure Cloud sect's sect master could no longer hold it in. His figure moved and directly charged towards Xin Yaolong. Let me meet you and see how strong you are to actually dare to say such words. Facing the figure that was rapidly approaching, a trace of disdain flashed across Xin Yaolong's eyes. He just stood there without moving and did not have the slightest intention of dodging. Only when the opponent's attack was close at hand did he strike out with his palm. It was an ordinary palm strike, but everyone could feel the boundless power contained in the palm wind. In everyone's line of sight, they saw the Azure Cloud Sect Master's figure quickly fly away and then fly out at an even faster speed. Bang! A shocking sound rang out. Only then did everyone realize that a mountain in the distance seemed to have been flattened by this palm. As for the Azure Cloud Sect Master, he was heavily injured and blood was spurting out. Seeing this, everyone was dumbfounded. Although the Azure Cloud Sect Master's strength was not the strongest, he was definitely not weak. The other party was able to beat him to such a state so easily. Recalling that when Jinghui was also heavily injured earlier, everyone understood where the problem was. With such strong strength, they were indeed not a match for him. How can this fellow be so strong? If we can't withstand a single move, wouldn't we be finished? Everyone looked at each other. At this level of strength, they also understood that if there was a great disparity in strength, then it was no longer something that could be dealt with by numbers. Today, the ancient profound sect's target was the Cloud Sword sect. But once the Cloud Sword sect was dealt with, it would be them later. If they could not deal with Xin Yaolong, then they would not be able to protect their own forces. Thinking of this, everyone could not help but panic. After Xin Yaolong noticed the change in everyone's expression, a trace of a smug smile appeared in his eyes. Since everyone is so curious, then I'll let everyone have a good look at my strength. As soon as he finished speaking, an extremely tyrannical pressure, with Xin Yaolong as the center, erupted. This pressure carried a black luster as it swept across the mountains and plains. Everyone felt that the scene in front of them was like the end of the world. An indescribable despair spread in everyone's hearts. Crush. It was an absolute suppression. Even if everyone joined forces, they would be able to resist the pressure. It was as if of course. This thought flashed through everyone's mind, but no one could think of an answer. After noticing this scene, Gu Yanran's face was filled with pride. Chapter 5608 Cloud Sword Sect. While the leaders of the other forces were on the verge of collapsing, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest were extremely calm. This could be confirmed. This guy is at the Starlight Realm. When Xiren spread out his hands and shrugged his shoulders, but there was a confident glow between his brows. As a dark attribute cultivator, it's already pretty good to be able to cultivate to such a level. I wonder how this guy came to the lower realm. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyebrows rose slightly. They had to figure this out. Other than that, nothing else was a problem. A Starlight Realm cultivator was nothing to them. Those guys outside must be in despair. Shangguan Yingying's expression was cold. They deserve it. Who asked them to have such an attitude? It's good to let them experience the feeling of despair. You're right. These guys should be taught a lesson. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. Although Sect Master Wen's reply was within her expectations, she couldn't help but feel dissatisfied. Let's just wait for a while before going out. We're not in a hurry anyway. Xiren smiled faintly. If the leaders of the other forces outside the Cloud Sword Sect knew that the people of the Cloud Sword Sect were gloating, who knew what they would think? Just when everyone was in despair and on the verge of collapsing, Wen Jinghui, Sitiyin, and the rest gradually appeared in front of everyone. It was only at this moment that Shun Yaolong retracted his pressure. Everyone looked at Shun Yaolong with lingering fear. His strength was too strong, and they couldn't deal with him at all. Shun Yaolong looked at Wen Jinghui, who was refreshed and didn't seem to be affected at all. A trace of dissatisfaction flashed through his eyes. Although he knew that when Jinghui's injuries had improved, the scene before him was still beyond his expectations. Sect Master One, I didn't expect your injuries to recover so well. Shun Yaolong mocked. Wen Jinghui said casually, it can only mean that you're not strong enough. Everyone gasped when they heard that. They felt that Wen Jinghui was crazy. This Shen Yaolong's strength was so strong that everyone wished they could stay as far away from this guy as possible. Wen Jinghui actually took the initiative to provoke him. Wasn't this seeking his own death? As expected, Shen Yaolong's face instantly darkened, and his eyes were filled with threat. Wen Jinghui, you're really worried, aren't you? Have you forgotten the consequences of angering me? Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Shen Yaolong's arrogant appearance, but they were not in a hurry to expose him. They just treated him like a clown. The consequences of angering you? Wen Jinghui chuckled. What consequences? Si-Tu Yin slowly said, Shen Yaolong, right? Although I don't know where you came from, I think you don't know much about the situation in the Shengxian continent. You think that your strength is not bad, but it is impossible to control everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun looked at each other. Why didn't they realize that their grandfather had such a hobby of teasing people before? Clearly, he was just toying with Shen Yaolong. Shen Yaolong was annoyed when he saw that Si-Tu Yin was lecturing him. You bastard, I think you're tired of living. Do you want me to send you to heaven? Chapter 5609. Everyone looked at Si-Tu Yin and Wen Jinghui, who were echoing each other, and they were all dumbfounded. What was going on? Could it be that Si-Tu Yin and Wen Jinghui didn't feel Shen Yaolong's terrifying strength? Logically speaking, shouldn't these two be more nervous than them now? Why were they still acting as if nothing had happened? Not only were the leaders of the surrounding forces confused, even Gu Yanran was at a loss at this moment. Why couldn't he understand the situation in front of him all of a sudden? Could it be that Si-Tu Yin and Wen Jinghui were scared silly? Were they giving up on themselves? Shen Yaolong's heart was filled with anger. These two guys, who he thought could be killed with one slap, actually dared to be so arrogant in front of him. He came here today to make an example out of them and remind the leaders of the surrounding forces when he subdued the Cloud Sword sect. Therefore, Gu Yanran couldn't let Wen Jinghui and the others take the initiative. Therefore, he quickly tried to take back the initiative. Sect Leader 1, I've already explained our plan a few days ago. Have you thought it through now? Gu Yanran's gaze was calm and proud. He didn't want to see these guys jumping around anymore. If you still don't obediently hand over the position of sect leader, then we can only take action and make you, the so-called sect leader, disappear from this world. As Gu Yanran's voice fell, a trace of coldness appeared in Xiren's eyes. This hateful guy seriously injured my father back then, and now he's still talking nonsense in front of me. Sect leader Gu, I remember that when you came a few days ago, I've already answered you very clearly and knocked out 2 of your teeth for you as a gift. Have you forgotten so quickly? Wen Jinghui's face was filled with a faint smile, and his casual appearance seemed to be talking about the good weather today. He didn't feel threatened at all, but it was such a conversation that everyone present could feel the murderous intent contained in it. Although they hadn't made a move yet, this was already a round of confrontation. Gu Yanran's face suddenly darkened. His originally proud face looked as if he had eaten a fly at this moment, and it was extremely ugly. He wished he could completely cover up the embarrassing incident that day, but when Jinghui just had to bring it up in front of everyone today. Wasn't this not giving him any face at all? Wen Jinghui, I think you're really refusing a toast only to drink a forfeit. Gu Yanran didn't want to say anything else. If he wanted to wash away the shame of that day, he could only wash it with blood. With that, Gu Yanran turned to look at Shen Yaolong. Master Shen, since Wen Jinghui is so unappreciative, I don't think we need to be polite. Shen Yaolong couldn't stand it any longer. Xiu Xiu, a purple realm cultivator from the lower realm, actually dared to be so arrogant in front of him. Wen Jinghui, I'll give you a chance to make a move. Let's have a match so that people won't say that I'm bullying you. Shen Yaolong's gaze was filled with disdain that came from his bones. Shen Yaolong's gaze was calm, as if as long as he made a move, Wen Jinghui would not have any chance to resist. After seeing that things had developed to this point, everyone present broke out in a cold sweat for Wen Jinghui. It was fine to talk about it, but once it was done, it would be for real. Chapter 5610. Since you want to fight so badly, and since my son has just returned, I'll let him fight with you today and let you understand the power of the cultivators in the Shengxian continent." Wen Jinghui casually threw out these words. At the same time, when Xiren stepped forward and stopped in front of Shen Yaolong. "I heard that. You're very arrogant?" When Xiren raised his eyebrows slightly as his handsome face curled into a devilish smile. His gaze was clearly calm, but one could feel a bone-deep threat and pressure. Shen Yaolong looked at the unusually young Wen Xiren in front of him and laughed in his heart. "Old man, you couldn't have been beaten silly by me, right?" Shen Yaolong sneered. "Even you're no match for me. Wouldn't your son be smashed into meat paste under my palm? Then you can try." When Xiren narrowed his good-looking eyes as a sharp light flashed across them. Seeing this, the crowd looked at each other in dismay. They could not understand what Wen Jinghui was up to. What is Sect Master Wen trying to do? Although young Sect Master Wen has gone out for training this time, and his power is indeed outstanding among the younger generation, he is no match for such a powerful cultivator. For a moment, the crowd even thought that Wen Jinghui had gone mad. Even if Wen Xiren had improved greatly this time, it was still impossible for him to be compared to Shen Yaolong. "You got some guts." A cruel and bloodthirsty light flashed across Shen Yaolong's eyes. "I will do as I said and smash you into meat paste. When that time comes, if you want to hate someone, hate your father. I will leave him with a scene that will leave a deep impression on him." When the icy voice fell into the ears of the crowd, they could only feel a chill run down their spines. However, Wen Xiren only chuckled. "Master Shen's interests are truly unique. Since that's the case, I will send you to your death in a moment. There's no need to be polite." Hiss! The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. They only felt that Wen Xiren was simply too courageous. "You're courting death." Shen Yaolong's palm directly attacked Xiren. The tyrannical chief force caused the surrounding cultivators to retreat, fearing that they would be accidentally injured by the chief force. Xiren's figure flashed and dodged Shen Yaolong's attack. Seeing this, Shen Yaolong's pupils shrank slightly. He had clearly used his qi to lock down the entire space. With the strength of the cultivators in the lower realms, it was impossible for them to break free from such a shackle. How did this young boy do it? However, Xiren did not give Shen Yaolong any time to think. He spun around in midair and unleashed a powerful kick. Bang! Gotcha! Everyone only saw a sweep and then heard the sound of bones breaking, but they didn't know whose bones were broken. "You really overestimate yourself." Gu Yanran sneered. He didn't need to look to know that Xiren's bones were broken. With this guy's strength, going against Master Shen was like hitting a rock with an egg. He was seeking his own death. "You really overestimate yourself," Di Beichen said lightly. Gu Yanran heard this and looked at Di Beichen. He was a little suspicious. Wasn't Di Beichen a good brother of Xiren's? Why was he suddenly standing on the same side as him? Could it be that Di Beichen knew that they were no match for him in terms of strength? So he had changed his stance and was now expressing goodwill towards him. Chapter 5611. Ah! An ear-piercing scream rang out, shattering Gu Yanran's fantasy. That was because the voice was far too familiar to him. Wasn't that Shen Yaolong's voice? He hurriedly took a closer look, only to discover that Shen Yaolong's legs had been directly broken by Wen Xiren's horizontal sweep. At that moment, Shen Yaolong was kneeling on the ground. His pants were dyed red with blood, and his face was flushed red from the pain. Impossible! This is impossible! Gu Yanran was dumbfounded. He rubbed his eyes and simply could not believe that everything before his eyes was real. However, when he clearly saw that Shen Yaolong had really been crippled and looked to be in pain, his face turned pale in an instant. He could not believe that all of this was real. Gu Yanran was not the only one who was dumbfounded. The leaders of the surrounding forces were also dumbfounded. That scene was simply too shocking. It was so shocking that they could not believe that all of this was real. Has young Sect Master Wen's strength become so terrifying? Shen Yaolong's strength has surpassed the Purple Realm. Young Sect Master Wen has only gone out to train for a few years, and his strength has increased by such a terrifying amount. No wonder Sect Master Wen is so calm. It turns out that he's already prepared for this. At that moment, everyone understood. No wonder Si Tuyin and Wen Jinghui had been so calm before this. They had already had a card up their sleeves. The leaders of the forces who had been on good terms with Wen Jinghui were extremely regretful. With Wen Xiren's strength, his future achievements had already exceeded their expectations. If they had been willing to step forward at a time like this, they would have definitely received an incomparably precious friendship. Unfortunately, they were cowardly and had missed out on all of this. If they wanted to be on good terms with him now, it would be too difficult. However, there was no medicine for regret in this world. Even if they regretted it, it would be of no use. After when Xiren had crippled Shen Yaolong's legs, he did not stop there. With another palm strike, Shen Yaolong's hands were crippled as well. How dare you be so arrogant with such little strength and try to control the entire Shengxian continent? What a fool's dream. Shen Yaolong endured the intense pain, but the shock in his heart was more intense than the pain in his body. Nebula Realm. You're a Nebula Realm cultivator. Previously, Xiren had been concealing his aura, so he did not sense it. At this moment, he finally understood. He actually saw a Nebula Realm cultivator in the lower realm. How is this possible? Nebula Realm. After Gu Yinran heard this sentence, his legs went soft. He also learned about the division of realms from Shen Yaolong. In his eyes, Grandmaster Shen, who was terrifyingly powerful, was only at the Starlight Realm. However, Wen Xiren actually had the strength of a Nebula Realm. They had really kicked an iron plate this time. You actually cultivated to the Nebula Realm on Penglai Island? This is impossible. Countless thoughts flashed through Shen Yaolong's mind, and then his eyes widened as he stared at Xiren. You've been to the upper realm. He knew all too well that on Penglai Island, he could only cultivate up to the astral boundary. However, if he wanted to cultivate online, he could only do so after awakening his innate talent. Therefore, cultivators above the astral boundary must have been to the upper realm. Xiren did not deny it. You don't need to know so much. You just need to know that you won't be able to see the sun tomorrow. Chapter 56:12. The huge palm carried with it a tyrannical pressure. From the moment it appeared, the entire world seemed to have been enveloped by this terrifying aura. Everyone felt that under this pressure, their breathing was suppressed, and they did not even dare to breathe loudly. Shen Yaolong looked at the huge palm, and a thick sense of panic appeared in his eyes. No, I beg you, please let me go. He looked at Wen Xiren in horror and nervousness. I won't do it again. Please let me live. At the same time, Gu Yanran and the group of disciples who came were also in a state of panic. They had come here today to show off their power, but who would have thought that they could lose their lives at any time? Go to hell and regret it. A bloodthirsty cold light flashed in Xiren's eyes. Since he dared to make a move on his father, he wanted him to die without a complete corpse. Boom! With a horrifying sound, Shen Yaolong's figure was crushed into a pile of mud. Gulp! Everyone swallowed a mouthful of saliva. That bloody and cruel scene had greatly affected them. Everyone thought that the person who would end up like that would be Xiren. Such a reversal was truly shocking. Wen Jinghui's eyes were filled with pride and arrogance. This was his son. Ah, good son. Wen Xiren smiled faintly and walked to Wen Jinghui's side. He did not say anything else, but no one could ignore his existence. Sect Master Gu, it seems that your beautiful dream has been shattered. Wen Jinghui looked at Gu Yanran indifferently. The latter's face was pale, and he no longer had his previous arrogance and complacency. Gu Yanran could not help but take 2 steps back. His back was already soaked in cold sweat. The smell of blood in the air entered his nostrils, and the horrifying scene made his heart tremble. He regretted it. He really regretted it. He never thought that when Xiren's strength would actually be so strong. And when he thought back to everything he had said earlier, he really wished that he could give himself a tight slap. Turning his gaze, he could feel that the other leaders were also looking at him with cold gazes. It seemed that even if Wen Jinghui let him go today, the other legal representatives would not let him go. Secmaster 1, I was wrong. I was under Shen Yaolong's control before. That's why I said those words. Please be magnanimous and let me off this time. Gu Yanran knelt down. He really didn't want to die. looking at the guy who was kowtowing and begging for mercy at his feet, Wen Jinghui did not have the slightest bit of sympathy in his eyes. Gu Yanran's decision was indeed influenced by Shen Yaolong, but from his previous performance, it could be seen that he was also looking forward to this plan. If it wasn't for the return of Xiren and the others this time, the current Cloud Sword sect would already have ceased to exist. Of course, he would not be merciful to such a person. Sect Leader Gu, you've been the sect leader for so many years. How can you still be so naive? A cold voice with a faint smile came out, but it made Gu Yanran lose all hope. The cultivators of the ancient profound sect were not stupid. Naturally, they knew that if they did not run, their little lives would be left here for good. In the next moment, everyone did not care so much and fled in different directions. Looking at the disciples of the ancient profound sect leaving, Wen Jinghui and the others did not make a move. After this matter was over, the ancient profound sect was destined to disappear from the Shengxian continent. This world was so cruel. If you don't succeed, you'll die trying. Chapter 56:13. Wen Jinghui didn't kill Gu Yanran right away, but brought him back to the Cloud Word sect. In the matter this time, they still had some things to ask clearly, such as everything related to Shen Yaolong. If it wasn't for Shen Yaolong going too far earlier, Xiren didn't intend to kill him right away. But since Shen Yaolong had spoken such words, then for the dignity of the entire Cloud Word sect, he would absolutely not be courteous. Now, they could only see if Gu Yanran knew all of this. If he didn't know, then forget it. Closing the door of the Cloud Word sect, he directly blocked all the leaders of the various powers that wanted to get closer to the Cloud Word sect. Everyone couldn't help but sigh when they saw this scene. Xiren had already returned for a few days, and this meant that the Cloud Word sect was already not afraid of the Guxian sect. The reason this news was spread earlier was to give everyone a warning and to give them an opportunity. If they contacted the Cloud Word sect at that time and expressed that they would stand on the same side, then they would be able to appear within the Cloud Word sect now and not be blocked outside like now. But unfortunately, no one thought of this at that time, and they missed this best opportunity. With young Sect Master 1, the future of the Cloud Word sect is truly limitless. Who can compare to it? Alas, who asked us to not grasp the opportunity before? After this incident, I'm afraid Sect Master 1 won't pay attention to us in the future. Young Sect Master 1 went out to gain experience with young Sect Master D and the others this time. Does this mean that young Sect Master D and the other strengths have also attained such a level? Everyone looked at each other, because Di Beichen and Xiren had an extremely good relationship, so everyone often compared them together in the past. All along, Di Beichen's performance was even more outstanding than Xiren's. Presently, Xiren already had such results, so it was impossible for Di Beichen's strength to be weak. Along with this point being brought up, everyone looked at each other. If it was really like this, then these powers like the Tiangang sect would really be unshakable in the future. Do you think Sect Master 1 and Sect Master Sidhu will take advantage of this opportunity to unify the world? Originally, everyone was worried about the ancient profound sect's plan, but now they couldn't help but worry about the Cloud Sword sect and the Tiangang sect. After all, these two sects were stronger than the ancient mysterious sect. If they had such thoughts, no one would be able to stop them. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Their hearts, which had just calmed down, were now in their throats again. Bailey Hongzhuang and her team did not care about the thoughts of the people outside, even though they had already guessed that their performance today had caused a huge uproar. Master, those fellows outside must be regretting it to death. Xiaohei had a complacent smile on her face. Perhaps they are now worried about whether we will continue with the ancient profound sect's plan. Let them worry about it. These fellows should feel the consequences of their actions in the first place. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were indifferent. They did not intend to do so, but letting these people be frightened for a while was also a punishment. All right, then those cultivators who escaped earlier were allowed to escape, just like that? Xiaobai asked doubtfully. Those fellows were also extremely arrogant earlier. Letting them escape, just like that, was really not worth it. Chapter 56:14. The cultivators of the ancient profound sect who came this time are obviously their core disciples. Once they run away, who knows when they will cause trouble in the future? Those people naturally know about this situation, so they should have taken action long ago. Xiron explained. He was in an extremely good mood after solving this matter so quickly today. Assembly Hall. Gu Yanran was kneeling on the ground at this moment, looking at everyone with an embarrassed expression. He was extremely nervous. Speak. Tell me everything about Shun Yaolong's appearance and everything else. Wan Jinghui looked at Gu Yanran coldly, his voice full of intimidation and threat. If you dare to lie, you will die miserably. Gu Yanran had long been frightened out of his wits. At this moment, how could he dare to lie? He immediately told everything in detail. After hearing all this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others also understood. It turned out that when Shen Yaolong saw other cultivators going to the lower realm, he took advantage of the fact that the Guardian was absent-minded and secretly ran down. In that case, he happened to come to the lower realm by chance. Xiron raised his eyebrows. That's what he told me. Gu Yanran nodded. I promise that everything I said is the truth. There is absolutely no concealment. After knowing this result, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were no longer worried. This was just a coincidence, and it would only happen if one was lucky. Otherwise, they would be discovered if they were not careful. Although they could not prevent such things from happening, there was no need to worry too much with such a small probability. In addition, when Jinghui asked other questions, after understanding everything, everyone was completely relieved. Sect Master One, I've said everything I can. Can you let me live? Gu Yanran looked at Wen Jinghui nervously. This time, I was confused. I beg you, spare me. I promise. I will disappear in front of you in the future. I will never do such a thing again. Bang, bang, bang. Gu Yanran kept kowtowing and weeping bitterly. Where was his usual demeanor and majesty? As the sect master of the ancient profound sect, he had always been very proud of his life. He really did not want to die. Once he died, there would be nothing left. However, Wen Jinghui showed no mercy. I've said all that needs to be said. You no longer have any value. Men, take him away and deal with him. With a wave of his hand, Gu Yanran was pulled down. No matter how Gu Yanran pleaded, it was of no use. Everyone just watched this scene indifferently. Fortunately, this scene today was stopped by them. Otherwise, the entire Cloudword sect would surely flow with blood like a river. To be merciful to the enemy was to be cruel to oneself. They had been in the Jianghu for a long time and would never make such a mistake again. This Gu Yanran really deserves it. Mu Lingbing shook her head and sighed. If it weren't for his wild ambition, he wouldn't have ended up like this. Even if we let him live today, there's no way he won't hold any grudges against us. But once he leaves, the other factions won't let him go, Lan Yinshao slowly said. With Gu Yanran's contemptuous attitude towards everyone today, it was impossible for everyone to let him go. Chapter 56:15. As everything was resolved, everyone's mood became brighter. Jinghui, since the matters here have been resolved, then we'll go back first. Situ Yin revealed a smile. Hong Zhuang and the others had just returned, and they didn't even have the time to return to Tiangang's sect. No matter what, they had to go back and take a look. Wen Jinghui naturally understood all of this and immediately nodded. I've really troubled you this time. Hong Zhuang and Di Beichun just returned, and they didn't have the time to have a proper gathering with you all before coming to Cloud Sword Sect. As he spoke, Wen Jinghui turned to look at Di Beichun and Mu Lingbing. As an uncle, I'm really sorry. Uncle, you're too polite. We're all on the same side, Di Beichun said with a smile. He had often come to Cloud Sword Sect since he was young, and when Jinghui was also in existence like family to him. I won't be polite either. When I go to the upper realm, I'll have to rely on you juniors. Wen Jinghui was extremely carefree. After experiencing this incident, he had already seen through many things. Now, his strength couldn't compare to these juniors. When he went to the upper realm, he still had to rely on the help of the juniors. However, as a senior, he must work hard to catch up to everyone's cultivation. Hearing Wen Jinghui say that he was going to the upper realm again, Mu Lingbing and the others secretly sighed in their hearts. This point made them very conflicted. Everyone didn't stay any longer and returned to Tiangang's sect together. Returning to this familiar place again, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips bloomed into a bright and sunny smile. Back then, it was here that she and Di Beichen's relationship had undergone a baptism. Back then, her status was low. Until now, she still remembered the sensation when Di Beichen announced her identity to the world. Even though so long had passed, the memory had always been in her heart. Young sect master, eldest young miss. Joyful voices came from the mouths of the Tiangang sect disciples. Everyone's faces were filled with joy and excitement. Young sect master and eldest young miss are finally back. We heard the news of the Cloud Sword sect long ago, and we're waiting for your return. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen smiled and responded to the crowd. Among the lively faces, there were familiar faces and unfamiliar faces, but the atmosphere made them feel at home. Mu Lingbing and the others couldn't help but sigh at the lively scene. Beichen and Hongzhuang's reputation in Tiangang sect is extraordinary. Where we ever seen these cultivators so excited? Even if Situ Yin had appeared, he would not have been able to cause such a commotion. Beichen and Hongzhuang were well-known figures among the younger generation. Many young people idolized them. Now that they've returned, this kind of situation is normal. Lan Yinxiao faintly smiled. Young people, of course, were targeted at young people. Hongzhuang Beichen. A familiar voice rang out from the crowd. No matter how noisy the surroundings were, Bailey Hongzhuang could still determine the owner of the voice in the first second. Turning her gaze slightly, Bailey Hongzhuang noticed Xia Jiqing in the crowd at a glance. Jiqing. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled, her eyes filled with joy. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang had noticed her, Xia Jiqing's face also filled with joy. Chapter 56:16. The surrounding disciples looked at the cordial appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang and Xia Jiqing, and their eyes were filled with envy. I heard before that the relationship between the eldest miss and senior sister Xia is very good. Now it seems that it is true. That's naturally true. You joined the sect late, so you don't know that senior sister Xia came to Tiangang sect with the eldest Mississippi. Although they're not biological sisters, they're closer than biological sisters. So, senior brother Bai, senior sister Lu, senior brother Dongfang, and senior brother Gong all know the eldest miss. Isn't that so? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled and took Xia Jiqing's hand. Long time no see, Jiqing. You were away for so long. You worried us to death. Fortunately, you came back safely. Xia Jiqing said with emotion. Has everything been resolved? Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and said, Don't worry. Everything has been resolved. That's good. Just as the two were talking, Bai Junyu, Dongfang Yu, Gong Shaoqing, and Lu Qinyue also arrived. At this moment, they were looking at Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen with smiles on their faces. Everyone is here. Di Beichen smiled warmly. Although he didn't know how everyone was doing, he could guess that everyone was doing well just by looking at their spiritual appearance. Bai Junyu nodded. When I heard the news of your return, Jiqing was looking forward to seeing you as soon as possible. In the past few days, the news of Cloud Sword sect had spread like wildfire. Everyone had been worried until they heard the good news and were relieved. Early this morning, Jiqing has been waiting for your news. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Xia Jiqing in front of her and felt a little touched. It's good that you're back. Xia Jiqing's eyes were slightly red. I've been waiting for you for so long. You're finally back. When she was in the academy, she had always been with Hongzhuang. Later on, when Hongzhuang came to Tiangang sect, she followed her to Tiangang sect. In her life, Hongzhuang was her most important sister. This time, I really don't have enough confidence, so I acted alone. In the future, I will do my best to act together with you. How about that? Her dark phoenix eyes flashed with a firm light. Even if they hadn't seen each other for a long time, as long as he looked at Xia Jiqing's eyes, he knew that the friendship between them had never changed. Jiqing had always supported her so firmly, and she cherished this friendship. That's great. Xia Jiqing was happy for a while. She always remembered the time when she was adventuring with Hong Zhuang. Although it was full of danger, that kind of life made her feel at ease. Her life in Tiangang's sect was very stable. With the resources of the sect, her cultivation did not fall behind. However, since Hong Zhuang left, she had always felt that something was missing. Mu Lingbing looked at Bailey Hong Zhuang and Xia Jiqing chatting happily. She couldn't help but smile and say, "Hong Zhuang, go back to the house first. You have plenty of time to talk." Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded and smiled. "Yes, let's go back and have a good chat." Inside the house, Bailey Hong Zhuang and a group of young people gathered together. "Hong Zhuang, you've been away for a long time this time." Dongfang Yu laughed aloud. "We've been waiting for you every day. Our necks have grown long. I see that your neck is still the same as before. There hasn't been any change." Bailey Hong Zhuang raised her eyebrows. Chapter 56:17. Beichen, has the problem with your physique been completely solved? There won't be any danger in the future, right? Gong Xiaoqing looked at Di Beichen with concern. When Di Beichen fell into a coma, everyone was extremely worried. Who would have thought that there would be such a big risk with his physique? Now that it's completely solved, there won't be any more problems. Di Beichen said, "Then we can be at ease." Gong Xiaoqing nodded. They were very clear about the relationship between Bailey Hong Zhuang and Di Beichen. If anything happened to Di Beichen, Hong Zhuang wouldn't live alone. Lu Qinyue quietly glanced at Gong Xiaoqing and asked, "You guys won't leave again this time, right?" "That's not it." Bailey Hong Zhuang shook her head. "This time, the matter of Cloud Sword sect has spread like wildfire. I won't hide it from you guys. On the other side of Shangxian continent, there's an island called Penglai. The cultivators there are stronger than here. The reason why ancient profound sect is so arrogant this time is because an extremely strong cultivator has appeared in their sect. That cultivator came from Penglai Island?" Dongfang Yu asked in surprise. "No. Since he didn't come from Penglai Island, what's the relationship between the two? He came from a place stronger than Penglai Island, the upper realm." When these words came out, Dongfang Yu and the others were stunned. When they heard about Penglai Island, they were already shocked. Now, there was another place that was even stronger than Penglai Island. This was too unbelievable. There are actually so many powerful places in Shangxian continent. Bai Junyu's eyes widened. "I suddenly feel that I don't know anything about the upper realm." These words were undoubtedly full of shock to Gong Xiaoqing and the others. Everyone fell into silence for a moment. All along, they felt that the world they lived in was incomparably familiar. Only now did they understand that everything was not like that. Bailey Hong Zhuang paid attention to everyone's expressions. In fact, the existence of the upper realm itself was not a big secret. It was just that they were worried that such news would cause some panic, so they had never mentioned it. The reason why she told Xia Jiqing and the others was that she felt that everyone might reach this level in the future. The earlier he knew, the more motivation he would have. After a brief surprise, Xia Jiqing quickly recovered. These things were not important to her. What she cared about was whether she could continue to travel with Hong Zhuang. She missed those days very much. If she could continue to live that kind of life, it would be the happiest thing in her life. In that case, you and Beichen went to Penglai Island and the upper realm previously? Bailey Hong Zhuang nodded slightly. "That's right. We're only here temporarily. We'll be leaving in a few days." "I understand." Xia Jiqing understood and couldn't help but sigh. In the beginning, she and Hong Zhuang had always been on the same side. Although Hong Zhuang's strength had always been stronger than hers, she had always been working hard to catch up with Hong Zhuang's footsteps. Now, the gap between them seemed to be even bigger, so big that it was difficult to catch up. "If you want to go there, I can take you with me. However, you have to think about it. The cultivators, they're extremely strong, far stronger than the cultivators in Shangxian continent." Chapter 56:18. After everyone left, Bailey Hong Zhuang said to Di Beichen, "Beichen, isn't this news too hard for everyone to accept?" To her, these pieces of news were not inconceivable at all. Even before she knew about Penglai Island, she doubted whether there would be such a strong existence in the Shangxian continent. After knowing all this, she accepted it very calmly. However, she neglected the fact that not everyone could calmly accept all of this. That's not it. Beichen's voice was as warm as the ocean. Dongfang and the others' cultivation talent is very good, and they're likely to come in contact with this side in the future. Letting them know earlier may not be a bad thing, and you also gave them a chance to choose. No matter what choice they make, we will support them. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded lightly, thinking back to the time when everyone was in the same team and worked hard to join the sect. Now, there was a new road in front of them, but not everyone's thoughts were the same as before. As far as I know, Dongfang and the others are now outstanding disciples in the sect, and their daily lives are quite comfortable. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Beichen. Although she only said half of the words, she already understood. Not everyone liked to pursue higher strength, and there were more people who worked hard to improve their cultivation in order to live a comfortable life. Perhaps everyone was very satisfied with their current life, so they were not willing to make any changes. You are right. Everyone has their own aspirations, and my thoughts may be different from theirs now. In the past 2 years, we have been immersed in the rhythm of our original lives, but they are completely different. Although the disciples of the sect often compete with each other with their current cultivation, it is not difficult for them to deal with it, but to go to the upper realm with us, it is indeed difficult. Bailey Hongzhuang sighed. She thought that she was too naive. I understand that you're doing this because of our friendship, but I think that even if they choose to go, it is best to experience Penglai Island first. It is not too late to go to the upper realm after they have adapted to life on Penglai Island, and their strength has improved to a certain extent. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the serious and handsome face and smiled. I understand your concerns. In fact, I also think that there is a Penglai Island between the upper realm and the lower realm because this is a place for everyone to adapt to. If Dongfang and the others are really willing to go, we can entrust them to Penglai Palace. As disciples of Penglai Palace, they will have less trouble like us, and if they can't adapt, they can come back on their own. Beichen's deep eyes revealed his thoughts and consideration. He was not worried about Sect Master or the others, because his master and the others have always been aware of the existence of a higher realm, and they had never relaxed. And they were more mature, so it was not a problem to deal with these things. Dongfang Yu and the others were still very young. Perhaps their thoughts would change in the future. But no matter from which point of view, staying on Penglai Island for a while was excellent. Only after getting used to high-intensity battles would they be able to catch up to the upper realm as quickly as possible. Chapter 5619. After returning to Tiangang Sect, Bailey Hongzhuang and Beichen traveled together and visited all the places they were familiar with. When they arrived at the Pill Refinement Hall, Bailey Hongzhuang did not leave immediately. Instead, she walked in to check on the situation of the Pill Refinement Masters. The Pill Refiners of Tiangang Sect were naturally aware of the eldest young lady's deep attainments in the art of pill refinement. Immediately, some of them plucked up the courage to ask for guidance. Bailey Hongzhuang did not refuse them and answered them one by one. Pills have always been very important to cultivators, and to a sect, the Pill Refinement Hall was also extremely crucial. When the crowd saw that Bailey Hongzhuang was so amiable and approachable, their hearts were filled with joy. One by one, they began to ask the questions in their hearts. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's answers, they realized that the questions that had been troubling them for a long time had been solved so easily. In the end, Bailey Hongzhuang simply opened a lecture hall and began to introduce some of the questions that they needed to pay attention to when refining pills. Her pill refinement skills have improved since she had ascended to the upper realm. Now, it was very easy for her to answer all of these questions. I've long heard that the eldest young lady's pill refinement skills are extremely outstanding. Now, it seems that the rumors are well-deserved. Isn't that so? Usually, it's very difficult to find definite answers to these questions. I never thought that the eldest young lady would be able to answer them without any hesitation and without any mistakes. I really hope that the eldest young lady can stay here forever. Then, our pill refinement skills will definitely surpass the medicine sects. Beichen's eyes rippled with a doting smile when he saw this. Aside from being an outstanding pill refiner, His wife was also a good teacher. Once they returned, Mu Lingbing's voice rang out before Bailey Hongzhuang could say anything. I heard that you went to the Pill Refinement Hall today and even opened a lecture hall. Bailey Hongzhuang was shocked. Mother, how did you know? This news has already spread throughout the entire Tiangang sect. Mu Jinsei chuckled. Along the way, I've heard disciples talking about it. Eldest young miss, you're very popular. Hongzhuang and Beichun have always been very popular here. I see that almost all the topics recently revolve around them. Mu Lingbing's face was full of pride. She was very satisfied to see her daughter grow up to be so outstanding. That's true. Mu Jinsei nodded. When the old man and I were here, we had never seen such a lively situation. In my opinion, even the cultivators who originally wanted to go into seclusion had to give up their plans. Listening to their conversation, Bailey Hongzhuang and Deep Beichun looked at each other and smiled. While the entire Tiangang sect was in joy, the masters of the various forces were in fear. No one knew what the Tiangang sect and the Cloud Sword sect were planning. During this process of waiting, they felt that every minute and every second was extremely unbearable. Most importantly, no news at a time like this meant that there was good news. Hence, the various large forces could only continuously ask around for information. On one hand, they were rejoicing that no news had been released. On the other hand, they were worried that the next news would be something they could not accept. Mother, have you discussed the matter of going to the upper realm with father? Bailey Hongzhuang asked curiously. Chapter 5620. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes dimmed. She thought that with her mother's help, it wouldn't be difficult to solve this problem. She didn't expect that they would still fail in the end. Mother, did father say why? Mu Lingbing noticed the sadness on Bailey Hongzhuang's face and couldn't help but feel heartache. She hurriedly said, Hongzhuang, don't be sad. Your father said that he will go to the upper realm to find you after he becomes stronger. Although he can't immediately go with you this time, he just needs to spend some time. He will go sooner or later. Be well in the upper realm and wait for us to come find you. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded. No matter what you choose, I will support you. Seeing this, Mu Lingbing and Mu Jinsei looked at each other helplessly. Both father and daughter were doing this for each other. Although this result made them feel very helpless, they felt very warm in their hearts when they thought of their concern for each other. Deep Beichun silently watched this scene from the side. He already had some thoughts in his heart, and after hearing his mother-in-law's words, he was even more certain that his judgment was correct. At night, the bright moon hung high in the sky, and the night was as cold as water. Di Beichun went directly to Lan Yunxiao's residence with a jug of good wine in hand. When Lan Yunxiao saw Di Beichun suddenly appear, he was somewhat surprised. Without waiting for him to ask, Lan Yunxiao entered. Di Beichun raised the jug of wine in his hand and smiled. Father-in-law, do you have time to drink with me? Yunxiao, the two of you should have a good drink. Mu Lingbing smiled. Lan Yunxiao immediately nodded. Of course. He was very satisfied with this son-in-law of his. If not for this, he wouldn't have married Hongzhuang so soon after he recognized her. Fortunately, Deep Beichun didn't disappoint him. Even when he went to the upper realm, he didn't let Hongzhuang suffer in the large D family. The two of them sat on the ground in the back mountain. The bright moonlight shone on them, elongating their shadows and making them seem as close as brothers. Father-in-law, I toast you. Thank you for letting Hongzhuang marry me. Di Beichun raised a jug of wine. At this time, the two of them were too lazy to hold wine cups, so they directly drank from the jug of wine. Ha, good. The two of them drank in large mouthfuls. The moonlight illuminated their handsome faces, hazy and beautiful. Beichun, when we return to the upper realm, you must take good care of Hongzhuang. Lan Yunxiao patted Di's back. I already heard from your mother-in-law. This time, your family prepared many gifts, and I know that they treat Hongzhuang's treatment. However, Hongzhuang has no one to rely on in the upper realm after all. She still needs you to take good care of her. I'm entrusting Hongzhuang to you. You can't let me down. Di Beichun nodded seriously. Father, don't worry. As long as I'm here, I won't let anyone bully Hong Zhuang. I swear on my life on this. Lan Yunxiao also looked at Di Bei-chin seriously and solemnly. When he saw the clear light in the other party's eyes, he revealed a satisfied expression. That's good. I'm relieved. Father, since you're so worried about Hong Zhuang, why don't you take advantage of this opportunity to go to the upper realm? I know that you all want to see Hong Zhuang often. Although there are many family matters, as long as you handle them well, it's not difficult to put them aside for the time being. Chapter 56:21. Lan Yunxiao didn't say anything and only took another sip of wine. Actually, I understand your concerns. Di Bei-chin slowly said, if I'm not wrong, the reason why you didn't take advantage of this opportunity to head to the upper realm is because you're worried that you'll implicate Hong Zhuang. Lan Yunxiao's expression froze. Then he looked up at the bright moon with a complicated expression. Di Bei-chin continued, Father-in-law, you might not be too clear about Hong Zhuang's current status in the upper realm. She's not isolated and helpless in the Di family. On the contrary, the Di family still has to rely on her identity as the Holy Maiden of Light. The Radiant Sacred Assembly is a prominent existence in the upper realm, and the Holy Maiden of Light only appears once every several hundred years. Just based on this identity, no one dares to bully her. Lan Yunxiao's expression changed. He really didn't know much about this. Although Di Bei-chin and Hong Zhuang had mentioned this before, he didn't think that the Holy Maiden of Light's status could be compared to the status of an aristocratic family. But now, it seemed that he had underestimated the Holy Maiden of Light's status. Not only that, Hong Zhuang is also a manager of the Alchemist Guild. She previously obtained first place in the Alchemist Assembly and is hailed as the existence most likely to become a 10th grade alchemist. I'm not exaggerating in the slightest. Father-in-law, I believe that you understand Hong Zhuang's personality very well. She definitely won't do anything she isn't confident in. You have a very important position in her heart. So before she came back, she already thought of a comprehensive plan so that you can head to the upper realm with peace of mind. Right? There's one more thing that I believe Hong Zhuang should have mentioned. Di Bei-chin raised his brows. Hong Zhuang is now the head of the Bailey family. Lan Yunxiao nodded. Hong Zhuang did mention this, but I don't understand. How did Hong Zhuang suddenly become the head of the Bailey family? When Hong Zhuang mentioned this, they all felt it was very strange. But they had been rather busy recently and had already made up their minds, so they didn't ask in detail. Actually, when Hong Zhuang was in Fengbo, she recognized a master. This master was from the Upper Realm's Bailey family. He passed the inheritance of the Bailey family to Hong Zhuang, and Hong Zhuang discovered all this after she went to the Upper Realm. After that, Hong Zhuang returned the inheritance of the Bailey family to them. In addition, the Bailey family had a prophecy that a Miss Hong Zhuang would lead them to become stronger. She was that person, and by chance, she became the head of the Bailey family. Di Bei-chin's expression was calm as he narrated all the ins and outs of the story in an orderly manner. He had already discussed this with Hong Zhuang before they came back. It was clearly inappropriate to directly tell Lan Yunxiao and Lan Yunxiao that she wasn't the real Lan Yixuan. It would truly hurt their hearts too much. After thinking about it, this was the most suitable and acceptable way to put it. As expected, although Lan Yunxiao was shocked after hearing this, he didn't suspect anything. No wonder Hong Zhuang was able to perform so well in Fengbo. It turns out that she has an outstanding master behind her. Lan Yunxiao immediately understood. He'd been very shocked at this point. He didn't expect his daughter to grow up so well in a small dynasty. Chapter 56:22. Previously, Hong Zhuang was worried that you would feel uneasy in the Di family after going to the upper realm. After she became the head of the Bailey family, she made up her mind to bring you to the upper realm. Because it's her family, you don't need to feel uneasy. Di Bei-chin explained everything that Bailey Hong Zhuang had been worried about. His deep voice was filled with sincerity. She really has prepared everything she could think of. After hearing all of this, Lan Yunxiao's face revealed a trace of shock. Although Hong Zhuang had mentioned this before, it hadn't shocked him as much as this. Only now did he understand that his daughter had made so many preparations to make them feel at ease. When I first met Hong Zhuang, General Bailey's family didn't treat her well, but she was very strong. The humiliation she endured was unbearable for many men. When she found out that she wasn't her biological daughter and that you didn't abandon her on purpose, I clearly saw her joy. In the past few years, her goal was to save you. I saw everything she did with my own eyes and understood her feelings for you. During these days in the upper realm, Hong Zhuang lived very well. Even though she was only there for a short period of time, she already had an unshakable position in the upper realm. But even so, she has always been worried about you. She was worried that you would encounter unknown dangers in the lower realm, but she also hoped that you could stay in the upper realm because it's more suitable for cultivators to develop. Father-in-law, I believe that you also love Hong Zhuang. If you chose to refuse because you were worried about her situation, I think it's better to make her happy. What do you think? Di Baichen looked at the shocked Lan Yinxiao. This was the first time he had said so much because he couldn't bear to see Hong Zhuang sad. Hong Zhuang had always been very strong, as if nothing could break her. But there was still a weak spot in her heart. Lan Yinxiao's heart trembled and his eyes reddened. In fact, he had always known that Hong Zhuang's life had not been easy all these years. Even though Hong Zhuang had downplayed everything, they could more or less guess. However, it wasn't until Di Baichen explained everything that he realized that they were still too naive. He was still so young, but he was already mature enough to think of everything for them. After a while, Lan Yinxiao nodded. Baichen, you're right. Nothing is more important than Hong Zhuang's happiness. When Di Baichen heard this, his face showed a happy smile. Father, so. Do you agree? Agreed. Lan Yinxiao nodded solemnly and raised the wine pot. Come, cheers. After drinking a large mouthful of wine, Lan Yinxiao said, I didn't consider this matter from Hong Zhuang's perspective. Fortunately, you reminded me. Otherwise, Hong Zhuang would be very disappointed when she leaves. He had already caused his daughter to lose so many years of happiness. How could he continue? Father-in-law, Hong Zhuang also understands your painstaking efforts. Di Baichen smiled faintly. But if she knows that you're willing to go together, she'll be very happy. Ha! Actually, your mother-in-law also wants to go to the upper realm to accompany Hong Zhuang. This is great. I don't have to be nagged by her anymore. Lan Yinxiao laughed heartily. Clearly, he was very happy after resolving one of his worries. Come, drink. Chapter 56-23. The next day, the weather was clear and the sun was shining brightly. Bailey Hong Zhuang saw Mu Lingbing appear in front of her door with a smile on her face early in the morning. She was a little surprised. Mother, did something good happen? Why are you so happy this early in the morning? Hong Zhuang, let me tell you some good news. Mu Lingbing held Bailey Hong Zhuang's hand, unable to conceal her joy. Your father has agreed to go to the upper realm. As soon as the words came out, Bailey Hong Zhuang was slightly surprised. Suspicion flashed in her eyes, followed by a fiery joy. Really? Father really agreed? Mu Lingbing nodded. Of course. Why would I lie to you about something like this? Father's attitude has always been firm. Why did he suddenly change his mind? Bailey Hong Zhuang's beautiful black eyes were filled with doubt. She was very puzzled. She had tried to persuade him many times before, but to no avail. She had already accepted this result, but her father had suddenly changed his mind. Something must have happened that she didn't know about. Otherwise, it was impossible for him to change his mind. Mu Lingbing smiled and pointed at Di Baichen, who was standing behind Bailey Hong Zhuang. You'll have to ask Baichen about this. Last night, Baichen went to find your father for a chat, and the two of them drank until the middle of the night before returning. This morning, your father told me that he changed his mind. Although she didn't know what Di Baichen had said to Lan Yinxiao, she was certain that this change had something to do with Baichen. Bailey Hong Zhuang turned to look at Di Baichen. Her beautiful face was filled with joy and gratitude. You really did it? Baichen had said that he would handle this matter, but because her father's attitude was too firm, she hadn't taken it to heart. She hadn't expected that Baichen would really be able to persuade her father. This was too shocking. Di Baichen nodded with a smile. I'll naturally do what I promised you. You're amazing. Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but give Di Beichun a big hug. Her pretty face was filled with joy. Ever since she'd returned to the lower realm, she'd hoped to persuade her father, and Beichun had accomplished what she'd thought was impossible. She was truly overjoyed. Feeling this warm hug, Di Beichun smiled slightly. After seeing such a happy Hongzhuang, everything was worth it. He believed that his father-in-law would think so too. Mu Lingbing looked at the loving Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichun, and her eyes flashed with love and affection. You two have a good chat. I'll go back first. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang let go of Di Beichun, a little embarrassed. Mu Lingbing had already turned to leave. Just as she was about to let go, Di Beichun hugged her tightly and carried her directly into the house. Beichun? Bailey Hongzhuang was surprised. Wife, I helped you fulfill such a big wish. You can't just thank me with words. You have to take action. Di Beichun smiled evilly. It's morning now. I don't mind. After Xia Jiqing learned that there was a higher existence in this world, her heart was extremely shocked, but she did not hesitate at all. Since Hongzhuang had gone to the upper realm, of course she would go with her. Chapter 56-24. Jiqing, you should be planning to go to the upper realm, right? Bai Junyu noticed Xia Jiqing's expression and had already guessed her thoughts. He and Jiqing had been together for a few years, and he knew Jiqing's temperament very well. Xia Jiqing nodded. Although I haven't been there, just listening to Hongzhuang, I know that it's very good. If we go there, our strength can be improved. Saying this, Xia Jiqing seemed to think of something. She turned to look at Bai Junyu and said, Junyu, do you want to go? Looking at Xia Jiqing's worried look, Bai Junyu chuckled. I thought you forgot about me after Hongzhuang came back. I didn't. Xia Jiqing smiled. Bai Junyu was good to her, and she had always kept it in her heart. Even if they had been together for so long, Bai Junyu still took care of her as always, which made her very touched. Seeing that you still have a little conscience, I will go with you. Bai Junyu smiled dotingly. What you said is true. Xia Jiqing jumped up in surprise. As far as she was concerned, this matter did not need to be considered at all. The only thing she was worried about was that Bai Junyu was not willing. If Junyu did not go, then she did not know whether to go or not. Now that Junyu had agreed, she had no more worries. Do you think I don't know you? Bai Junyu looked helpless. Hongzhuang is so important in your heart. When Hongzhuang was not here, you always talked about it. Now that Hongzhuang is back and gives you such a choice, it would be strange if you don't agree. Junyu, you really know me too well. Xia Jiqing's face was full of joy. In fact, the reason why I can be where I am now is because of Hongzhuang. If it weren't for Hongzhuang encouraging me and helping me, I wouldn't have been able to join the sect. You also heard what Hongzhuang said. There are so many strong people in this world. Are we satisfied with the status quo and give up everything? Bai Junyu nodded slightly. You're right. It's not necessarily a bad thing to venture into the upper realm. It had only been a few years since Hongzhuang and Beichun had left, but their strength had increased so much. Right now, they were still very young. If they took advantage of this time to go out and make a name for themselves, they would be able to achieve even greater achievements. Jiqing, actually with our current cultivation, Hongzhuang is already taking care of us by being willing to take us there. So we must work hard. Bai Junyu's expression was serious. Although Hongzhuang did not mention this point, he understood in his heart. If they needed help, it would undoubtedly be much easier to find one from the upper realm. However, Hongzhuang had proposed to bring them along. This was because she wanted to guide them because of their previous friendship. If he didn't seize such a good opportunity, he would be letting Hongzhuang down. Listening to Bai Junyu's words, Xia Jiqing also understood. I understand. Hongzhuang has always been very sincere to us. What she was most grateful for was that Hongzhuang's status was no longer on the same level as hers. However, Hongzhuang had never cared about this and had always treated her sincerely. Since it has been decided, should we tell Hongzhuang first? Xia Jiqing raised her lips and smiled. This time, I'm afraid they won't stay for long. The earlier we tell her, the earlier we can prepare. Chapter 56-25. Just as Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were heading to Bailey Hongzhuang's residence, they unexpectedly met Dong Fengyu on the way. The three of them looked at each other and smiled. "It seems that you have also thought about it." Dong Fengyu took the lead and said. Xia Jiqing nodded slightly. "Yes, we have decided to go to the upper realm. What about you?" "My thoughts are the same as yours." Dong Fengyu chuckled. "We are still so young. How can everything stop here? Since there's a more powerful place, no matter what, we have to go and see it. Even if we can't adapt, we can still come back." Looking at Dong Fengyu's casual appearance, Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu also sighed. Dong Fengyu had always been the most free and easy person. Many problems that seemed incomparably tangled to others were not problems at all for him. But they had to admit that such a free and easy attitude was really admirable. "By the way, did you not call Xiaoqing when you came?" Bai Junyu was a little puzzled. Usually, Dong Fengyu would call Gong Xiaoqing. The two of them had always had a good relationship since they were at the academy. However, the situation had changed slightly after Gong Xiaoqing and Lu Qingyue got together. "I have already asked Xiaoqing, but this time his plan is different from ours." Dong Fengyu shrugged, his face full of emotion. Hearing this, Bai Junyu and Xia Jiqing were slightly surprised. They did not expect Gong Xiaoqing to refuse. Did Xiaoqing say why? One had to know that Gong Xiaoqing was the most hardworking among them. It was reasonable to say that he would not refuse such an opportunity. Qingyue feels that life here is very good and does not want to go out again. Dong Fengyu pursed his lips, his eyebrows showing a trace of sadness. He and Gong Xiaoqing were good brothers for many years. Over the years, the two of them had been working together and could be said to be inseparable. They did not expect that the two of them would have different choices now. Although there was still a chance to come back, they knew in their hearts that once they left this time, they did not know when they would meet again in the future. Xia Jiqing suddenly understood. Qinyue's temperament is very gentle. A life of fighting and killing is not suitable for her. On the contrary, it is very suitable here. When they were at the academy, Qinyue's characteristics had already been exposed. She preferred a more stable life and did not want too many twists and turns in her life. The future of this trip to the upper realm was uncertain, and they might encounter danger at any time. It was normal for them to be unwilling to go. Since this is their choice, we can only give them our blessings. Bai Junyu spread out his hands. "It's a pity that the number of people in our team will be reduced." "That's right." Bai Junyu sighed. "It was so lively when we were together." When Bailey Hongzhuang learned that Xia Jiqing and the other two had chosen to go together, her face also showed a happy smile. "It's great that you're willing to come with us. It's a pity that Xiaoqing and Qingyue chose to stay here. Actually, it's good that they're staying here. They're all outstanding disciples in the sect. Now that the three of you have left, it'll have a certain impact. If the two of them stay here, they can at least lead a group of disciples." Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. She was very open-minded about this. Qinyue's temperament was not suitable to go outside. Chapter 56-26. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately said this decision. "In addition to you, the sect and the Lan family will choose some excellent cultivators to go with you. Penglai Island is actually a very good place to gain experience, and there's a magic refining tower there. If there is a chance, you can try to get the inheritance. After you adapt to the situation on Penglai Island, we will take you to the upper realm." She had made up her mind to let her family and sect gradually become stronger. Letting some cultivators improve in batches and then slowly transition was undoubtedly the best. After hearing this news, Dong Fengyu and the others were a little surprised, but they also understood Hongzhuang's painstaking arrangement. "No problem. I understand that the gap between the upper realm and the lower realm is too big. It is good for us to adapt to Penglai Island first." Dong Fengyu blinked his charming peach blossom eyes, looking relaxed and calm. In fact, he had been worried about this problem before. Although he didn't know how strong Hongzhuang was now, just by feeling her aura, he knew that it was definitely not an ordinary gap. If the strength of everyone in the upper realm was so amazing, they wouldn't know what to do after going there. Basically, in addition to silently cultivating, they didn't even have the courage to go out. If they accidentally offended someone, they wouldn't even have the ability to fight back. Although the cultivators on Punlai Island were very strong, at least the gap could be seen, and there was a goal to pursue. We are very familiar with the Punlai Palace on Punlai Island. We were disciples of the Punlai Palace before. You can directly join the Punlai Palace. With the help of the Palace Master and Master Long, there should be no problem with your cultivation. Bachin said. Hearing this, the three nodded slightly. Since Bachin said so, they knew that the relationship with the Punlai Palace must be very familiar. If not, Hong Zhuang and Bachin wouldn't be at ease to let everyone stay there. You arranged it. We are relieved. Bai Junyu smiled. I didn't expect you to help us plan it all. Bailey Hong Zhuang took Xia Jiqing's hand. Jiqing, in fact, I wanted to go with you, but the difference in the upper realm is really big. If you stay in a house all day to cultivate, it will undoubtedly be very boring. On the Punlai Island, there are more suitable places for you to cultivate. As a cultivator, it was obviously not appropriate to cultivate in seclusion without experience. However, the dangers of the upper realm were not suitable for them, and the world in the Chaos Ring was now more dangerous as their strength increased. It was no longer suitable for Xia Jiqing and the others. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with a warm and kind smile. Hong Zhuang, I know that you have always cared about me. This is the best way so far. Don't worry, we will definitely cultivate properly on Punlai Island. It is impossible for us to surpass you. However, we will definitely catch up to you as soon as possible and head to the upper realm. Bailey Hong Zhuang was completely relieved when she saw Xia Jiqing like this. I believe that with your talent, you will soon reach the standard to go to the upper realm. Maybe you will have a fortuitous encounter on Punlai Island. Punlai Island was located between the upper realm and the lower realm. It also had a good inheritance. If there was an opportunity, the improvement would be very fast. You're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.